Welcome! My name is Ken. Thank you for joining us with Flying Orc and the Wandering Isles. I'm here with the boys. We are gonna jump straight into it. We are missing you today, John. Come back soon. We miss you. Yeah, let's kick straight into it. Richard, with our recap, please, if you would not mind.
Okay. The tale of battle and betrayal. Hearken now, brave souls, to the tale of a fire's flare. Boreal's blaze sparked chaos, heroes ensnared in despair. Amadriana, Eos, and Slate to the ground were felled, while Hatsu in calm meditation a secret prayer expelled. Mother of light, creator of shadows, send aid in this plight. He whispered to the heavens amidst the chaotic fight. Wesland in a flash with a teleport did appear, a grapple, a headbutt, his intentions crystal clear. Dash the swift, the Eos aid did swiftly dart, then turned to Boreal, restraining with a valiant heart. Hatsu rose from his trance, blade gleaming in the night, and with a single strike, Wesland fell from sight. Turning on Dash, betrayal cold in his eyes, but Amadriana, rescued by faculty, did rise. She struck Hatsu from behind, a desperate saving blow. Yet Hatsu's blade turned on her, his former ally, now his foe. Slate, revived by the faculty's tender care, rose as the unsung hero, beyond compare. With the hilt of his sword, he felled both of the foes in a sweeping arc. Boreal and Hatsu, unconscious, left in the dark. Wesland's tattoos shimmered, a mystic transformation, while Hatsu and Boreal faced imminent incarceration. An impending trial looms, discussions split the band, remorse is nowhere found, division takes its stand. Wesland taught the Song of Summer, a melody so bright, while Amadriana sought wisdom in ancient tomes of light. Thus ends this chapter of betrayal and fight, where heroes divided and darkness in sight.
Damn. Okay. All right, we're in it. Oh shit,
That's
that was really good.
level poetry.
Damn. I should have known it was something because I messaged you earlier and I was like, hey, just a reminder, if you recapped, and you're like, I did it days ago.
Yeah, I was like, I had this shit
hell
done.
yeah.
I had it done.
That's perfect. Hell yeah.
I thought I'd practice some bard, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, bravo. Yeah, so I mean, we pick things up at the beginning of the sort of court hearing. Westland, I recap a little bit here because Westland, we have to sort of change a little bit because we said that everybody took the front row seats in the courthouse, but of course, Westland not being here today, I will say that he did not attend. He's on the lam. It was clearly him that did it. He was accused of murder and he escaped. Yeah, I mean, we'll kick pretty much straight into it. If there's anything you guys want to discuss in session before we kick in, like while you guys are sitting up front waiting for everything to get set up, feel free. The
only thing I want to ask is, I thought it was chicken, not lamb.
God damn it. God damn it. Is it too early to end the stream? I'm still like lost on Richard's thing. That was awesome. So what do you guys want to do?
See, I'm the execution.
The executioner cometh.
Eos will be sitting on her chair, legs crossed beneath her, just kind of anxious.
Dash is, he's back in his best suit after being a bit more casual for the last few days, and he's just kind of looking left and right to see, kind of gauge the mood, to do a vibe check, as it were, on the place and see how the party's feeling, how the others in the court are feeling, and looking out to see if there's anyone new, anyone he hasn't seen before, if there's anyone there.
Oh yeah, tons.
Like that.
I mean, this is like the meeting hall kind of, or the eating hall, I suppose. Like tons and tons of students are here, basically all the faculty. People are getting ready up front and stuff, but there's still a lot of people moving around, finding seats, shuffling around. The room slowly getting bigger to accommodate as many people as needs be. With that in mind, yeah, roll for insight, I suppose.
So D&D needs a vibe roll.
It is. It's called insight.
Was that a
One
9?
specific badge. That's a 9.
Yeah. If it's not about you, you just don't know. Yeah. So you take a look around. It's really hard to tell, but everybody's kind of in the same vibe or space as you. Like there isn't much difference in emotion. There's nobody sitting there like, like everybody's quite tense and serious. They might be going home tomorrow. So it's like, this is an important day, especially for the 5th years who are finalizing and getting their licenses, and the 1st years who this is pretty much all new. They don't know anything here, but they're not the only ones part of this process, you know?
5th years don't deserve to finalize. They're fucking useless.
They don't exist, apparently.
As per all of my NPCs, they're all useless, pal.
Yeah.
What would you guys like to discuss or do while the courtroom is being set up?
Well, I'm currently furiously writing in a notebook and have been for some time since before people arrived. Just writing a couple of things, tearing out a sheet, writing a couple of things, tearing out a sheet, and just working away on that.
Okay. And the rest of you?
Just watching, looking around.
What are you writing there, Slate?
So I just look up and I have a handful of them prepared. So I just hand the handful to Dash, and they're all, each one is a copy of the one before, hastily scrawled and scribbled. It's not written nicely or neatly, and I'd say the penmanship changes styles, etc. several times without. It's just furiously written, and in it, Slate is basically I articulate my disappointment with what's happened and with the security of the school, and I'm proposing, because I know what's going to happen, in writing to the guys so they can all read it, that I think the school should make some changes, and that whether or not I stay, I'm suggesting things like something like prefects or hall monitors, where students are approved to support the school in things like early detection and dealing with issues on the ground, report it back, pass on feedback to the teachers, whoever it may be, and just take a greater role in the environment they're in, because clearly what's there is not quite working. So perhaps that's the answer. Based on what's just happened, we were able to make a difference. So articulating to them that perhaps a formalized plan with the school of us to support them in some way, along with other students that were picked and so on and so forth, and that that's something that I just feel really strongly about, and things like that are underlined several times, you know, and it's just that kind of idea. And then it's one of those, like, will you kiss me, yes, no boxes at the bottom for everybody just saying, you know, yes, no, that's it, you know.
Interesting. So so there's a yes, no box. You know, I assume yes to agree. Yeah, so I'll just mark yes, and I'll pass it down to Eos.
That was his only copy.
There's multiple copies, that's why I was writing them, tearing them out, so you have the whole stack of them right now.
Okay, what exact options am I presented with in this piece of paper?
Basically agree or disagree, I think.
Yeah, it just articulates that I think that students should play a greater role in the protection of themselves, the school, its surroundings, and the other people. That they should be given additional support, classes, work closer with teachers, get more information, be part of the solution rather than the problem, and that they should be a formalized thing, you know, and they can be handpicked or whatever have you. There should be a process. All the details aren't worked out, but that's my suggestion, basically.
You get a big old check mark for yeah, and a little note saying 5th years should be present in all dorms, all areas at all times.
I mean, I think there's only 80 students in the whole school, but we can roll with that. That's fine. Yeah.
And I'll just pass it on to the next in the line, which I assume will be Amadriana, but lean across Slate and go, here, Amadriana, that's... Take it.
He just marks it while he's holding it. I'm checking out. I'm looking at all exits, who's on the doors,
Brother,
security, all that kind of stuff.
when Dash leans over you and you go, I'm checking out, that the rest of that sentence just auto-completed in my head and it went a very different direction.
Wait, did you go to The Simpsons?
Sure.
I'm checking in. Sorry.
So you're taking a look at, sorry, the doors, exits. What are we looking at here? Or what are we looking
Basically,
for?
I want to know exactly the quickest exits, the easiest exits based on who is near them, and any security issues for whatever may come through the door while we're all in here.
Okay. In terms of security, I mean, not super much because the school doesn't have security. It's fundamentally one of the things that Richard is raising a Slate right now. That there really isn't much in terms of security. But in terms of like the doors and stuff, the doors at the moment are kind of open because people are still funneling in, but they'll probably be closed for privacy. I don't think there's going to be anything in the ways of them being locked. You can come and go as you please. Like, they're not going to lock a room full of students in one place. That would be crazy. But there's not necessarily a ton of guards or something. Like, the school doesn't have that. Like, although arguably agreeing with Slate, there should be something like that. But prior to this, there has not been. Typically, the school is pretty much on top of itself. Most people don't want to mess around with a magical school full of people who are capable of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
The two threats have occurred in the last few days or weeks, I guess. One of which was an outside source, and the larger of the two was an inside source. It was something that happened from within. So, like,
I suppose what I really want to see is, like, if there's, say, like a group of stupid fifth years that are on the right hand side door, I want to make sure that we go out the left because we won't get blocked up by them morons. That kind of thing.
Okay. There are a few scattered around the place, but there's no sort of cliques or anything. People are sitting like you guys are. There's groups of people sitting together, but they're not sorted by year or anything like that. It's just, it is what it is. You guys sitting up front isn't a coincidence. The likelihood is that as people who were witnesses and predominantly conscious for some of this or all of this, you will be called as witnesses. So it makes sense to have you guys up front along with some of the faculty and a few of the fifth years and fourth years, because they were the only people who are sort of still relatively conscious after a blast.
Okay. And then the only other thing I'm going to be looking out for is once everyone's in, if there's anyone of note not there. So I know Wesleyan won't be there because Wesleyan's Wesleyan.
Wesleyan's not there, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, but if it looks like everyone else is there, but there's like a teacher or two missing or something like that, then that's something you should be paying attention for.
I mean, I'll come back to it most likely when the room is more settled. Right now, people are still funneling in, so it's hard to say, oh, this person's not here or this person is here. But yeah, I get what you're getting at.
That's what I mean. When they shut the doors, who's missing? That kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. I'll try and put that down in my head. But as a sort of side note, DM to player, this isn't mandatory for people to be here. So there may be students missing who may be upset by the process, like they may not be here. That's not unusual. And there may be teachers missing for the same reason. There is a council made up of faculty here and things like that who are responsible for the outcome of this based on how people sort of spend the next day arguing. Yeah.
But even knowing who's in and who's not gives me information about what side of the fence that person might be on, which is valuable to me.
Okay. I will do my best to present that to you as we go.
No worries.
Yeah.
I have one other thing before we move on as well, just as kind of after Madrian has ticked, and I'll hand it back to Slate. Dash will take out a large bit of paper as well and kind of present it to Slate, and it's essentially pretty much everything he said in Dash speak, I suppose, much more flowery. And I'll say to Slate, this essentially, I agree with everything you're saying. If you like, we could do the old, well, I wouldn't say good cop, bad cop, but maybe dumb cop and straight shooting cop. I bamboozle them with words that essentially make no sense whatsoever, and then you come in simple terms and just clear the slate, so to speak.
Slate just getting uncomfortable.
I've got two thoughts. My first thought is president. My second thought is, I presume your mother was also a lawyer.
No, she was a seamstress.
I see.
Was. Spoilers.
Wait, did I just kill off my own mother? Oh shit.
Look, sounds good. Let's see how it unfolds.
Wonderful. That should just kind of sit up straight back to essentially adopting the persona that they would have seen him with first when he arrived at the school, much more formal.
And Madriana, you note that the first council member is sat down, and it's a teacher you guys have seen sometimes that's called Nur al Hikmah. She approaches and sits down in her space, sort of at the first slot. She's setting up some papers, ready to take notes and do all of these kind of things. The rest of the people are funneling in. You guys can carry on. If there's nothing to carry on with,
Lots of people in here.
go ahead.
Just
Sorry.
sitting watching.
Quiet for a room full of people.
Shh, Dash.
It echoes through the. It's like very quiet, very quiet, very quiet. No, everybody's kind of, there's low buzz and low chatter, but this is like, without being a courthouse, this is kind of like that vibe and setting. Like you feel like this is something very heavy and very legal. The next council member comes in and sits down next to Noor, which is Willard Powerhouse. He, very big dude. A couple of you have met him already. He comes in and he takes up a lot of space. He sits down on this chair, and the chair looks really small beneath him, but he sits down behind this thing, and like there's sort of it's like a row of desks. It looks kind of like, it's not as formal as when you see the US Senate hearings and stuff like that, where they have this big massive thing, but there's a few really nice desks and the room looks really nice and stuff like that. And Harley's there apparently. And yeah, it's just a sea of familiar faces as people come in. You hear some, Madriana, I'll say that you pick this up just naturally because you're already paying attention, first of all, and second of all, your passive is just bonkers. So you pick this up naturally, that there are people talking behind and are just saying that the council is made up of 3 and 3, so 3 people who kind of feel in favor of like moving forward and trying to fix things and trying to see what can be done to improve the situation. And 3 people, 3 of the teachers or faculty are in favor of just shutting the school down until at very least they can fix this and make it a better and safer environment, and maybe in the future years reopen. So for the moment,
are you able to tell me which 3 are each?
They haven't spoken about that. Like that wouldn't be even probably relevant, massively relevant information for the students. So this is something that'll probably come to light as people are talking throughout the thing, but that's just something that they had heard as a rumor, and they're just whispering it to each other, and you just pick up on it because your hearing is phenomenal.
They hadn't said, Remington doesn't want to shut the school.
Remington
like, it wasn't
stepped
named.
out, so he's going to be a non-voter on this. He will be the person that, like, sort of a judge without authority, if that makes sense. So he'll be there. He'll be part of this. He'll probably sit with a lot of people and stuff like that, but he will continue to be a member of this process. But he's not going to weigh in either way at the end because he feels biased by the whole situation. He cares very much for all of you, the school. This is a lineage and a legacy, this building, this to his family. So he doesn't want to have a voting say on this. So there's technically 7 people present, but 6 of them will be voting members based on either side. And like, yeah.
Okay.
The next member comes in and sits down. It's also someone that you guys know at least somewhat well, Helga Dont. She comes in and she takes a seat next to Powerhouse. The next one to come in is someone that you guys would know pretty well, especially Madriana and Dash, would be Yasma Cognizance. That's the wrong button. There we go. Yasma is the sort of robotic type teacher that was there and that was present. The one that Decker was working on when he was here.
Okay.
Next up, we have one that you've probably seen in very little passing, but I don't think you've had an upfront communication with. And their name is Opaline Perusal. And this is them. They are bird folk. They wear these blue kind of robes and a brown belt for those who are in listening to the podcast later. They have these large kind of gloves on that actually kind of look like the gloves you use when training hawks and stuff like that. They wear them actually on their hand, which I thought was a really dope touch on the art. That's cool. And then finally, a smaller person comes in, but by no means not a large presence in the room. Isabel Dos enters the room as well. She's wearing these kind of like it's almost these creamy robes, but there's a lot of green dressing around the side. I can't remember what that's called. On clothes, what it's called, trim on the sides, and the large brown belt. For those who played D&D before, she would be somewhat of a more druidic looking person. Of course, Remington joins as well, and he sits in the middle, and he will be sort of who people are more or less talking to, I suppose, throughout this proceeding. There are two tables facing the sort of the council. The two tables, one has two seats, and that's on the sort of on your left if you were to look at it. And if you're looking at it on the right, there's one with one seat, and there's nobody at any of these spaces yet. So this is likely who we're waiting for. Yeah, it may be a couple more minutes if you guys want to talk about what you've already seen. Optional, of course.
He was just going to put up her hood. She's a little bit uncomfortable now with how many people are here. So she's just trying to make herself feel more invisible.
Mm-hmm.
And lean over to Slate and, just kind of to the side a bit. What do you think is really going to happen here today?
Hard to say, really. I don't know the true ethos of the school or its members. I don't know who holds the true power, swing votes. I don't know them well enough to know their inner thoughts. Anything could happen. For all we know, another student will try and kill us all. Who knows?
You can't help but look at that panel and feel like this place might be a little bit of a whimsy.
Well, it's definitely not perhaps as organized as it could be or should be, for sure.
I know a lot of people have come through here, both good and bad, but can't wonder at why such a big upturn right now.
I mean, if they did have smaller classes, then the teachers would have more control, more vigilance. So there has to be a reason why there's so many.
Yes, be interesting to know why some of us got some things and not the others as well. I personally don't want to see this place shut. I think it's good for those that need it.
It's
However,
definitely better than some places I've been.
Oh yes. But it definitely needs something.
Well, perhaps that's what will come to pass after whatever happens today happens. Let's see.
Yes. Let's see.
And then I just adjust my backpack that I have at my feet and just make sure it's all tied up and ready to go. And I just sit back and relax.
There is a very suddenly dynamic shift in the room as a gentleman walks in. He's wearing a suit with a brown tie. He has slick back hair and glasses, and he looks very professional. Dash, I'm going to get you to give me a history check, and I'm going to give you advantage to see if you recognize this gentleman.
Okay. That's 17.
Yeah, a chill runs down your spine. As, first of all, someone maybe arguably slightly better dressed than you walks in. But also, this is Thaddeus Grimstone. He is responsible for basically anyone who has ever been sent to Scorchwood in the recent years. He tried to shut down anything to do with magical hearing and helping, and he's directly from Palperoth. He has nothing to do with the school. Most notably, he works for and helps legalize a lot of the actions that the Crisis Response Unit are responsible for and doing. He is not what most magic users would consider to be a good person, but in the eyes of someone who fears magic, he is nothing short of a legend or a hero. He is not someone that advocates for the use of magic. He's someone who advocates for shutting down magic, putting every magic user away. Anyone who is anyhow leaning in that direction of having any kind of power should be locked away. And he's generally not a great person in that sense. This is...
As I see him enter, I'm going to very deliberately shift my body to just kind of obscure Eos from his line of sight.
There are plenty of people in here. I mean, like, there's a Minotaur sitting on the council and stuff, so it's not... But yeah...
This is kind of an instinctive... Protective.
Because you love her.
Get out of my way, ew.
Love lift us up where we belong.
It's just a flash of all the things he did, but instead of like 20 moments, it's 2. It's when he dragged her away, and then when he leaned in front of her.
An officer and an Eos.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll quickly. I'm going to reach across and kind of catch a Madriana, just pull Madriana in close, and I'll pass on briefly that information.
He just did.
Yeah, sorry.
Thaddeus Grimstone, he's very anti-magic. He's from Palperoth. He will be no friend to any of our friends here, I can assure you of that. If he has his way, this entire place would likely be underwater if you could. But at the very least, he would see this shut down and Eos and Slate and Wesleyan imprisoned. He's bad news.
Well, our group do not use any of your abilities while he's here.
Good call.
And I'm assuming, obviously, he's pulled me over Slate, so I'm guessing Slate's already heard what I've said.
Definitely, that was not quiet.
It was whispered to our group, so yeah. So there's just me and Dash, and then there's Slate in the middle like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I just look back.
And Eos with no idea why, like, Dash is just like leaning on her.
Yeah, he's like leaning over her, but then whispering back this way to me.
Well, I'll deposit that information quickly to Imidrian, then turn and inform Eos of the same.
Cool.
Bradius Brimstone? What did you say?
Thaddeus Grimstone.
Oh.
Do not, as much as you can, do not draw any attention to yourself within his presence.
I can't if you're sitting next to me.
I've granted, but as much as you can.
With that, 2 people walk in. One is a sort of blonde gentleman with slick back hair, like these crazy piercing blue eyes, and this sort of purple-ish, sort of a darkish purple suit. And a woman walking beside him who has this kind of, it's a very business suit, like a shirt open underneath it and like a jacket, a blazer kind of thing, and these like really nice kind of floral earrings. You hear people talking behind you, but you don't know who these people are. This gentleman is Eldrick Grimsbane.
That's Tom Hiddleston, man.
Yeah, I was just saying, hello.
100% Tom Hiddleston, yeah.
It's Eldrick Grimsbane. And the other side is Serafina Loomis, who walks through.
I'm gonna write down her name.
As those two people walk through the room together, there is talk
That's
of them.
Hatsu's lawyer. I want her.
Actually, it is Hatsu's lawyer, yes. They're both Hatsu's lawyer as they set up at the other table. As Serafina...
I don't need to know anymore. He's innocent.
Serafina...
Prove me guilty.
Oh my god, this is going to be a very difficult to get through session. As Eldrick and Serafina take their positions, the room starts to get quieter and people start to take their seats, and what you do gather from people talking around you, I would say at least to Madriana, is that these two come from a place called the Arcane Advocates, and they fight in the favor of people who are magic users, but they do not have a hell of a lot of experience in this. This is a very new thing, so they will be.
I was going to say that they sound like some, avocados at law that we know.
Nope, nothing like that.
Very new to the business.
One of them is blind. No, absolutely.
Why is his hand so big?
Poor Ken.
Okay, anyway. With that in mind, there is several students on the other side in the front, and they look like people who will be pulled in to talk as well. But for the moment, it's just you guys on one side and them on the other. Brought in to sit at a sort of desk in the very corner are Boreal and Hatsu. They are sat down together, but they are very much so shackled. This is both probably a safety precaution and also just to put at ease the mind of the one specific gentleman here who is advocating for this whole place to be locked the fuck down. Remington starts to come in and talk to a few people, so this seems like the final few moments. Is there anything else that you guys want to address or talk about amongst each other? Madriana, you're the only person who knows about the avocados at law.
Yeah, sorry, go on, Rory.
How's Hatsu looking?
I'll let Busy decide. How's Hatsu looking?
Oh, he's chill and calm.
Glasses on, talking smack.
No, he's not talking at all. He's just waiting for it. But he's chill.
I was going to ask the same, but of Boreal, because we all know he's like a nervous Nelly.
He looks nervous as shit. Yeah.
Is he gonna explode again?
The day is young.
I'm keeping an eye on him as well.
Let them all burn!
But it's Boreal, so it's like a tiny little fire, just sparkles.
I'm not expecting anything because the red moon's passed, but I am keeping an eye on him in case those eyes light up.
Okay. They are sitting on the opposite side from you, just for context. So on your side, you have the two lawyers defending school, the defendant. And on the right-hand side, then we have Mr. Sirius and then Hatsu and Boreal together. In front of them, and then it's just the council.
It's a straight line with my arrow. Good to know.
Sure. On that note, what weapons have actually been taken off you before this? I think they would have at least told you to try and leave them
been quite
at the place.
lax.
Yeah, I guess.
In the cardboard box outside the hall.
Madriana would have smuggled in her fucking bow because she's lawful good.
No, not my bow. My daggers, though.
My daggers, my bow, my crossbow, my...
And
got a phantom
I
rope.
It's actually just stacked
Yeah,
with
she's
weapons.
just like barbarian on the back, just full of stuff.
well, what it is it's my leather armor. It's just got different sections where there's different blades in,
No, that's
Deadpool.
fine. Yeah. For this context,
No,
it's fine. Yeah, you might get searched in the future for other things, but for now, it's not really a big deal.
Okay.
And just to point out, I never said I was lawful good.
Oh my.
Moving forward.
Right.
Go ahead. If it's on point, go ahead.
No, just fuckery.
In terms of moving forward here, Remington is literally moving forward. He's getting prepared to take the seat in the middle. After that point, it will be very difficult for you guys to communicate or to speak for a little while without being overheard by pretty much everybody in this hall, because you would be able to hear a pin drop. Is there anything else that you guys want to discuss or say or get out of the way before the whole room can hear you?
I'm comfy.
I think okay. I will just ask a question of the group. Are we trying to get Hatsu cleared here? Because I think his heart was in the right place. It's chaotic as fuck. He was trying to protect his brother. Personally, I think we should get him cleared and then deal with the consequences after in our own way.
As I've said, I was never worried about what Boreal did. In that sense, I'm not even worried about what Hatsu did. I understand it. The issue is the fact that he sees no wrong in it.
So I think when
he stood by and did nothing, and then when someone else had to act, then he decided to go against that. No.
The argument would be he did what he believed honor would dictate he do. If someone
let everyone die because he was praying? That's not honorable. Not in anyone's book, surely.
Not by our measurements. I don't know enough about his culture or his family or his way of life to say otherwise. All I can judge by is he very much wanted to protect the one person in this place he loves more than anyone else. There is an argument to the, protect the many over the one, but when you're in a crisis situation, not everyone acts in a manner that you would always expect.
But from everything he's displayed, sitting on the ground and praying was definitely not the thing that you would expect him to do.
No, but I also wouldn't expect an owl to light up glowing red and throw fireballs around the place, so I don't know what the fuck to expect anymore. For all I know, God could have come through the front door because of his prayers. I don't know.
Yeah, what Boreal did was pretty cool.
Cool, but
there's really something we've got to talk about with you, Eos. But that's for another time.
I agree.
But anyway, in short, from my part, I would rather Hatsu not go to jail or be executed or whatever the sentence might be for trying to protect his brother. I would rather he spend time with us so that he could see the good intent that was there and learn that honor is different outside of his culture.
And say we do this and he still doesn't learn. Are you going to be the one to tell him that he's not wanted?
I'm not sure I would get a chance because Slate is pretty, cut and dry in that regard. I'm just saying, give the man time. It's only been a few weeks.
For what it's worth, I don't think he deserves jail or anything worse. Especially not at the hands of men like him.
Precisely. The punishment would very much not fit the crime. I can assure you of that.
Seconded.
And in any case, if Hatsu does go off the rails again, just knocking the fuck out again.
Dash.
I think it'd be a lot worse than that next time.
Are you a cop?
Definitely not. Puts away the aviator glasses.
Do you think you might be undercover, Eos?
Not again. Not
So
again. Breaking character for a moment. Not again.
He might want to be undercover with you, that's for sure. Anyway.
Oh my god.
Remington lets out a small cough. Yes. Welcome, everybody. I would like to thank you all for coming. The door is always open should you feel uncomfortable and wish to leave, but we do appreciate you being here. We're here today to discuss the important things to discuss. The fates of these two young men here and the future of our establishment. We have picked this council based on a few select reasons. One of which is that, for example, Noor here will provide some insight on the ethics of using magic and magical law itself, as she is an expert in this. Willard will of course evaluate the necessities and consequences of combat actions that need to be taken. Helga will assess security breaches and potential threats to the school going forward. Yesma will evaluate the intentions and truthfulness of the testimonies here today, so we do recommend that you stay truthful, as they shall know. Opaline will provide historical context and ensure the preservation of the school's legacy, and Isabel will represent non-magical perspectives and evaluate the impact of the broader community outside of the school. All of these shall be fair and impartial, and are not... In no way is this to be a one-sided hearing where every decision is determined at the start. That is not what will happen here today. We will evaluate and weigh up every testimonial that is made, and in doing so and in keeping this fair and equal, we have included several esteemed members of legal stature in our standing and our contract with the Crisis Response Unit and the agreements that we have with the higher-ups in Palperoth. We have reached out to Thaddeus Grimstone and allowed him to come in, and he will be the prosecution for today. And in our defense, I have brought in two people that I have not had the good fortune of meeting yet, but I do very much appreciate, which is the Arcane Advocates, who have been doing a lot of work to try and help people who are in difficult situations like Hatsu and Boreal are here today. The structure for today is that we shall allow them to make opening statements pertaining to their ambitions or goals or what they hope to see for this case. And we will be doing examinations with various witnesses who were present at the situation, most of whom are already in this room, and some of which may be invited later. Once this is done, there will be a deliberation for the council, and a final decision will be reached. Whether or not Hatsu or Boreal should or will face a punishment of some sort for what went down previously, and for the situation that occurred. And of course, the future of this school, and if it is safe for those who attend it. The second this becomes an institution of violence or chaos, we will shut these doors and they will not open again. In the last week, we have had 2 such incidents that have raised calls for alarm, and we do take this seriously. We hope today brings some light to these situations. I would say Eos more than most, but Eos and maybe a Madriana might pick up on the fact that he looks fucking exhausted. The likelihood is he hasn't slept much at all during this entire process. He is struggling to kind of, like, he looks like his energy matches his age, if that makes sense. Like, he's very worn out and very tired. The likelihood is he hasn't slept or slept much, that this has had a heavy, heavy toll on him. So, first we will have Thaddeus. He will come up and he will make his opening statement. Now, I know that sometimes emotions can get the better of you, and perhaps you agree or don't agree with things that are being said here today. But we would ask that you keep it to yourselves until such a time that it is brought to you. If you are too, well, let's say rambunctious, we will ask you to leave before the proceedings. With that said, Thaddeus, if you wish. He stands up and he just lets out a and he puts a little briefcase on the table and he looks around. Are any of you like particularly good at insight? Is that like, are any of you proficient in insight?
Yeah, I am actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Proficient for insight, and you got that? Okay. Anyone who is proficient in insight. Yeah, so the three of you then. So
Me too.
You guys will know that as he looks around, there are moments where he looks towards, for example, Helga, or perhaps Eos, and there's a little bit of scorn in his face. He is not okay with being here amongst, well, those who look different, but he is also he's not voicing that disgust, and if you weren't closely paying attention, you may not pick up on it, but those of you who are would catch that. And it's, for Eos, unfortunately, it's something you've faced all of this for most of your life. I need to chug some coffee. I've stumbled over every sentence.
Don't worry, my guy. You got this.
You faced this difficulty with like a lot of hate towards you in your life, but not here. So this is the first time that you felt like you're back home again. I don't mean with your mother. I mean just in the town that you come from and the situation that you come from. There's that old familiar feeling coming back, and it kind of brings to light the fact that you haven't actually felt that way really since you got here. But at the same time, that same scornful look just rubs you the wrong way.
It's like a
Something like
scent from some place you've been before, and it just hits you like.
Yeah. It's a familiar thing. Like, you might even pick up on it just because you're very familiar with that look. Yeah.
Mm.
I'm also proficient in insight, so just to let you know, I would also be aware of that, okay?
Okay. So everyone but a Madriana. Cass picked up on that. Okay.
The Madriana might pick up that Dash is kind of grinding his teeth when this guy takes a stand.
Yeah. I mean, overall, it's not a pleasant experience, but in terms of what you know, like, there's a chance that, like, you don't have much experience with magic users, but there is a chance that people you have known from your community may have been taken away by him. Like, he is the responsible figure. I'm not saying he's the guy who came in, kicked the door down, and like a SWAT unit and took him away, but he's responsible for that final verdict, and pretty much rarely, if ever, does he lose what he's doing. Yeah. Just trying to think. I mean, there may be a little bit of crossover here for a Madriana too, actually. Because some of the people who would be where you came from would probably have encountered him. So, like, they may have seen his work before and had to flee from the mainlands because of what he can do. Where you come from, a Madriana is like the last bastion of freedom, right? You go there are no police, there are no guards, and there is no authority, and they're not getting in. They don't try, they won't bother. Like, they won't go to Verdwar. But he, like, definitely would have some enemies there. So it might be a name that you've come across in that sense too. Whether or not it's people you particularly like is up to you.
Has there ever been any reference, anything she's ever overheard about him getting rid of any problems?
In what sense? Like, what are we talking about here? Getting rid of? Like,
Well, let's say not that way, but definitely disappearing. Like someone that might have not been suited to the area that had to go away on an extended holiday.
Not just an extended holiday. He's responsible for almost everybody in the recent years that has gone to Scorchwood Prison.
That's
And
what I mean.
what happens there is beyond anyone's kind of knowledge, because there is no record of anyone coming from Scorchwood Prison, only going.
Yeah. So that's what I mean, is like, has there been anyone that's said to have been escorted off the island and gone with a Brad?
From here?
Thaddeus?
No, certainly
From
not
my
from here.
home.
Oh, from your
No.
home? No, not there
Essentially,
either.
what I'm asking is, has he ever had any backhand dealings with people that I've known that have had to make people disappear?
I get you. No, they wouldn't have ever gotten into where you were, because there is an extreme loyalty to the people who run Verdoir. There is an extreme loyalty to those who are on top and in charge, and you, like, because
I
if
wonder
anyone,
whether it was from them that people had gone.
people had
Do you know
run.
what I mean? Like
Okay, so I'll say this again, but I'll do it to try and make it as clear as possible, because there's only certain things I can answer or say here. So
Oh yeah.
if you go to Verdoir, the odds are that if you're fleeing to Verdoir, you're fleeing from this guy and his persecution and what comes from him, and mostly the people of Palperoth, but also by extension the rest of the kingdom. A lot of people feel the same way. This isn't something that's unusual. But in Palperoth, it's just where the crisis response unit is. That's where he is. That's where, like, all of this is, except for, like, the courthouse, which is on the same island but further away, and then also the prison, which is unknown where that is. But the, like, where I'm coming from with this is that he does everything by the book, but the book is in his favor. He basically wrote the book. So like, the people he works for definitely wrote the book. So, like, when it comes to, like, are you guilty? Like, it's basically Salem witch trials. If someone is, like, said to have potentially, like, he's a witch or she's a witch or whatever, like, if that comes up, they're very quickly brought in front of him, and he doesn't take much time to get the case done, and that's it. People have disappeared because of him, for sure.
Oh yeah. So okay, I was trying to do it in a more narrative way to explain it.
Yeah.
What I meant was, like you said, people run into Verdoir to get away from him, right? Has Amadriana ever heard of any dealings from the higher ups within Verdoir that have been, like, dealt with him? Like, hey, you had a guy come into your island lately that I want. How about you give him to me and I do something for you?
Something I want.
Exactly.
No, because they wouldn't get away with it. Like, so for example, if someone, everybody knows this, but in Verdoir, like, I would say, Dash, you would know this as well anyway, for sure. In Verdoir, if you betray, like, the higher ups there, like, worse things will happen to you than Scorchwood. Like, you are gone. There is too much fear there that they would ever turn on Verdoir. If you go there, it's your safe haven, it's your home, and you treat it like as such.
Right.
Nobody has ever betrayed Verdoir that you're aware of, and those that have were, like, quickly dealt with with minimal harm coming from whatever they did, because everybody knows everything. There's, like, ears on ears on ears to the ground from Verdoir.
Right.
So, like, that is a place that you don't really fuck with. But from other places, for sure, he could show up or his people. It's not even just him. He has a team, but they'll show up and they'll do whatever it takes to make things go away if it's a problem. It doesn't take much. But on that same vein, because you're asking that question, I will give you this. Given the fact that he does have a team, it's pretty strange that he would come here himself. So maybe there is a line to, there is something that I want. Like,
he's looking for a reason to shut this place down or control it.
Yeah, he's now inside the hornet's nest and with an invitation. He gets to look around and be here. You know, why would you turn that down?
Which is exactly why Amadriana told everyone to make sure they don't use their powers. She already expected that from him.
He would know, like, you would all know that he knows that this is a magical school. He knows what this place is. So it's not like that. It's not necessarily that you can't use your powers, but if he, like, think about the corrupt cop from TV, though. If it's like, you tried to attack me and you didn't, you were like, you know, you were doing target practice and he was nearby. Like, like, he'll spin a story and he's a lawyer, so he can, right?
But the thing, it's more the fact that I don't want him to have the knowledge of what we're capable of. That was why she said hide what you can do.
Got it. Okay, good. Yeah.
Do you know? Because it's like, if he doesn't know what you can do, he can't use it against you.
Right. Knowledge is only a weapon if you have the knowledge, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So with that in mind, he steps up to make his like opening remarks. I have to pull up my notes for this because I couldn't memorize like 50 scripts.
Objection.
Sustain. He takes a moment and he sort of surveys the room, and this is the moment that you pick up on, especially Eos, but a lot of you do. Pretty much everyone but a Madriana, I think. Members of the council. Today we gather to address the severe and unsettling events that have transpired within these walls of Maleficum's Arcanum of Magic and Might. This case concerns the safety and ethical implications of allowing such an institution to operate without stricter oversight or even its potential closure. My purpose here is to determine whether the actions and incidents involving the students of this academy, particularly, and he moves around but without looking, points back to Boreal and Hatsu, and to see if it warrants the closure of the school and what sort of severe consequences should be given to those involved. There's a strong emphasis on severe. It's not a question to him. He thinks there should be a punishment. Like, there's no part of his brain that thinks this should just be tossed aside or this is just trivial. He believes there should be a punishment, and his punishment is Scorchwood every time. So it's very clear based on his dialogue what he's saying, but Dash especially, you understand very clearly what he is talking about here. The Academy's failure to prevent these incidents highlights a systemic issue of negligence and a lack of proper control over its students and the use of their magic. The administration's inability to foresee and mitigate these threats poses a continuous risk to all students and faculty members. The repercussions of these incidents extend beyond the Academy, and that is why I'm here. This will affect the local community and the perception of magic users at large. My fear is that people like this leave this academy and go repeat these actions in the middle of a city like Palperoth, where dozens, if not hundreds, of people who matter could be impacted. Today we will show how the Academy's actions and lack thereof contribute to the stigma and fear surrounding magic in our society, and I will use this as a basis to show why magic as a whole should be banned. It's imperative that we hold the Academy accountable for its actions and ensure that these dangerous practices are either reformed or ceased entirely. And I would argue the latter. The safety and well-being of both magical and non-magical communities depend on our decision today. There's a clear switch in his dynamic. He's starting to rope in people who are magical that might agree with him because he understands that the environment that he's dealing with today is a predominantly magical one. While someone does a wicked piano solo in the background. In closing, we seek justice for the victims and demand a thorough reevaluation of the Arcanum, and the Council must make take decisive action to prevent further harm and uphold the principles of safety and ethical use of magic. Those who work for the Crisis Response Unit have given ample opportunity for this school to prove that it can handle the burden of so-called magic users. But all I see, and all that has been proven to me, is the potential for further raise threats upon our glorious isles. I've come here today for you to show me and the Council that I'm wrong. He has sort of the faintest smile under his sort of breath as he's talking, because he feels very confident in this. He already doesn't like magic users, so to him this is a slam dunk. But the ramifications of what happens here today would echo through the society as a larger. First of all, if this place gets shut down, magic users would be set free. What kind of reverb would that have on the communities at large, rather than being in one isolated space? But of course, then the counter to that is that without a place like this, what kind of threats could come in the future? With that in mind, he sort of sits back down and he thinks clearly from the side of his face that you guys would see, because you're on the opposite side to him. He's very confident and he thinks that went really well. Like, he's basically sizing up cufflinks or like handcuffs sizes for everybody in this room, so he can just take everybody and go. Like, this is a bigger argument to him than just Hatsu and Boreal. Like, he's here for something more, and whether or not he even wins today, I don't think it matters as much. He's just trying to get what he needs to perhaps take this on a bigger platform or a bigger stage. He's looking for an excuse, and this might just be it.
Does he have anything on him, about him, with him, that says magic at all?
Make a investigation check for me.
Only a 14.
It doesn't look like it. No, there wouldn't be anything anyway that really stands out. He doesn't particularly look especially like a magic user. He just looks like someone who's incredibly gifted with words and persuasion and that kind of thing, but it doesn't seem like a magical persuasion. It just seems he's a very persuasive person.
Yeah. It's more like if he had a magical ring on, or if he had a tattoo or something like that. That was the kind of thing, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. Like, he does have probably rings on and stuff, but it's got nothing to do with magic. No, nothing that, or at least nothing that you would pick up on as magic or recognize.
Yeah, that's fair.
Eldrix stands up, this tall, slender gentleman, comb back here, slick back here, and he steps forward and he sort of thinks for a moment, and he smiles, and he has this like really big, charming smile. Honorable members of the council, we stand before you today to defend not only the reputation and operations of this arcanum, but also the integrity and potential of every student who walks its halls. This academy has long been a beacon of knowledge and a sanctuary for those with magical abilities, providing them with education and guidance necessary to harness their powers responsibly. As he says responsibly, he does glance over towards Boreal and Hatsu, but unlike the other gentleman, he makes eye contact with you. He is looking towards you. He cares about you guys. Just the Hatsu leaves back like pew pew, like finger guns. Our purpose today is to demonstrate that the incidents in question, while serious, are isolated and do not reflect a systemic failure of this academy. We will show that the academy has robust safety measures in place and that actions taken during these incidents were in response to unforeseen threats. The academy plays a crucial role in educating young magic users and teaching them to control their abilities and use them for the greater good. Without such institutions, the potential for misuse of magic would be far greater. We must recognize the importance of this educational environment in fostering responsible and ethical magic use. It's essential to understand that Maleficum's Arcanum of Magic and Might not only educate but also rehabilitate. Students learn from their mistakes in a controlled environment, which is crucial for their development. The Academy has protocols to address incidents and to ensure that students are guided back to the path of responsible magic use. We will present testimonies today to show that the Academy has had positive contributions to the community, including its role in preventing greater harm and promoting peace and understanding between magical and non-magical communities. In conclusion, we ask the Council to consider the broader implications of their decision. It's not just a school, it's a pillar of our community, ensuring that magic is used safely and responsibly. The incidents, while regrettable, are not indicative of a failing institution, but rather of the challenges faced by any organization tasked with managing powerful and unique individuals. We urge the Council to allow the Academy to continue its vital work. He goes and he sits down. Fucking chicken is going ham. They find... Yeah, one sec. She's discovered a person, I think, walking inside. They sit down and the room is sort of at a hush, but there are quiet arguments and, shockingly enough, agreeable and disagreeable tones. So some people agree with what he's saying, but there are people in here that actually disagree as well. Some people want to know, I guess, what the protocols are, or maybe what the things are that he's talking about, but at the same time, is it too little too late? At this time, I'd like to get a sort of a mood check, I suppose, on you guys. I'll start with the Madriana and go kind of alphabetically across. How is Madriana feeling in this situation? Because she's been pretty conflicted, kind of in... Like, she knows what she wants to happen, but obviously she doesn't want the ultimate thing to happen of, like, Hatsu going away or something like that. But how is she feeling?
That's the thing. In this moment, listening to, like, this open, even as early as this is, it's fuck this guy. We'll deal with Hatsu and Borio ourselves.
Is that like Ryan or Madriana? Because that's like a real... I feel that it's like a Ryan thing where you're like, fuck this guy, fuck this process.
I feel like that was one of those times where player and, you know, character align and is like, do you know what? Fuck this guy.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see his grisly end.
Oh shit! Oh my god. Oh, moving on. Dash, how are you feeling?
Dash is very engrossed in kind of jotting notes. He's listening to what's being said, and he's kind of going, "Oh, that's a good point. Okay, let me just write that." And I'm assuming kind of similar to Slate at the moment. They're both kind of, yeah, just kind of looking over, going, "What's okay,
copying his homework?"
yeah, just kind of showing, like, as I'm writing something, just kind of show it to Slate and just kind of.
But from what I know about Dash, like how fast can he really write with calligraphy?
This isn't like it's neat. It's legible. It's not not calligraphy. No.
To be fair, actually, like I should ask Busy because he's like a calligraphy master. Eos, how are you feeling?
Eos is she's not looking at anyone's faces. She's looking down at her shoes. She's waiting for a moment she can take them off to be a bit more comfortable. And she's listening to the tonality, to the words being said. She's listening to how they're being spoken. She's listening to it more in a musical way. Does that sound like does that sound That's how she's picking up the conversation. She struggles to keep eye contact.
Perfect. Yeah. She avoids the eye contact and kind of focuses on the now audibly rather than visually. There is probably a certain sense of discomfort too, based on who is present in the room and what the situation is. And I mean, these are people I assume she likes, so it's like probably a tough thing, because Eos, out of everybody, I think Eos is probably one of, maybe on the side with Slate as well, the furthest away from a situation like this. This is a very new environment for you two, I would say. Not that everyone's been in a courthouse, but a lot of you have been in a room like this in some way or another. But I would say Eos and Slate probably haven't. Hatsu, I mean, how are you feeling?
Hatsu is calm. He finds wisdom in both attempts. And in his mind, he's not valuing like good or bad. It's more like two necessities that get swirled into each other. He envisions it like a tornado where cold air and warm air pressures together to a point when they're circling around about one topic, and he just sits in the center of the eye where there's like peace and silence.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's nice. Boreal is the polar opposite to that, and he's freaking out. Slate, how are you handling this?
It'd be obvious to everybody with the back and forth just before it began that Slate specifically didn't engage in that conversation and didn't offer up any particular thoughts or last minute anything. Made a couple of scribbles and notes previously about things that could be done better or improved. Since it's begun, I've been very much sitting forward on the chair, leaning forward, leaning into the conversation, getting closer to it, if you know what I mean, in my seat. And I haven't really switched any focus onto anything in the room other than the proceedings and the people in front. I would say, you know, when you have an argument with somebody and then the argument is over, but you can feel that tension. You can tell that someone is absolutely seething, furious.
Yeah, they're not over.
That kind of vibe. Yeah, that kind of vibe is coming off of myself at the moment. And then there's bursts of frantically scribbling like a madman, not writing in lines, just writing circles, dashes, just everything all over the page. It's all over the place. But also anyone who would look would know that, much like when somebody writes, depending on how they write, they can lean really heavily on the page. Yeah. So in some cases I'm almost tearing it and I'm really leaning heavily into some of the scrawls and the writing and things that I'm doing. And I'm just seething, and that's all that's coming across, is just that I'm writing loads of notes furiously and I'm really pissed off about some of the things that I'm hearing.
Yeah.
He's not writing, he's just playing tic-tac-toe with his other selves.
Yeah, absolutely.
But be.
Yeah, I mean, you're all kind of in a similar vein of how you're feeling. Then there's a lot of, I think there's an awareness of how serious the situation kind of is, that is coming across for you guys, which is quite good. Yeah. So the first person that they call up to talk to is a fifth year that you may have seen around. Her name is Lyra. She deals with fire, obviously. But her, or for those in the podcast, there's a picture on screen. Lyra has like long hair. She's quite young. But her nickname, or the hero name that she chose, is Pyra. Easy change, Lyra to Pyra. Why not? She gets asked very specific questions from the defense, from the two of them. They ask things like, can you describe your experience at Maleficums, and like, what has the safety been like as you've been here? And she talks about how, yeah, I mean, there's been some incidents that we're dealing with powered individuals, but we've been healed quite quickly and there's no lasting effects and everybody's been quite okay. There's been no deaths or anything like that. And like, although these two incidents happened today, nothing like this has happened really in her entire time here. It's been more a very basic kind of thing. They ask about how the school handles the teaching of dangerous spells that involve flames and fire and stuff like that. She responds with, like, obviously they start in isolation. They get trained individually for bigger spells like this when it could go wrong. so that most people don't get hurt. And then she talks about how it eventually gets brought into groups and stuff like that, and they can discuss different techniques and things that they've learned, but mostly it's handled individually for the safety of those around. Again, events like what happened here with Boreal are more isolated and strange because that was a very bizarre situation that she doesn't fully understand. And she gets finally asked by the defense, like, can you speak about the support and guidance provided to students in mastering their magical abilities? And she goes on to say a lot of what she already said again, but just re-emphasize the fact that they put a lot of work into making sure that nobody gets hurt during these things. And if they do, even if it's major injuries in the rare cases, which can happen, but they're usually healed very quickly. There are things that are in place to try and make these things work, right? The prosecution steps up and he asks a few questions like, were you aware of any incidents where students misused their magical abilities? And she gets sort of nervous, and she references it contextually and says, well, like sometimes to heat up food or to do different things like that, but that's like technically a misuse, but it isn't. Like, it's more of a practice or something. She tries to spin it, but he's already caught what he wants to hear: misuse of magic. How do you feel personally about the safety protocols in the school in light of recent events? And she has to answer honestly and say that she's surprised that 2 events happened so close together that were big breaches in security that should have been taken care of better. But she goes on to say that she also understands why these things can happen out of the blue, and then she gets cut off. He then asks, did you witness any concerning behavior from Boreal or Hatsu prior to the incident? And she says she doesn't really know them, which is true. There's an objection throughout it to say that, like, he's trying to lead the witness and trying to pull her in his favor and not, like, actually take all of the information into account. He just ends up rephrasing the question and getting the same answers that he wants. This is his specialty and his ability. And if I were to RP all of this, this would be a 27-hour session because there's quite a bit. With that,
I'm off tomorrow.
Yeah, well, anyway, we'll stick to our usuals. Yeah. So with that in mind, she moves off the sort of bench, and people are kind of muttering to themselves about the whole situation. Next up is a gentleman in blue robes who's brought up, and he sits down at the thing. He's another 5th year here. People mostly just call him Steel Fist. Definitely not Iron Fist. Don't come at me. They ask about things like, can you explain how the school trains students, like the defense, sorry, they ask about how can you explain things like the school trains students in combat and physical enhancement spells? And he says that everything is handled really safe and really like orderly, like everything's trained, everyone's trained individually, then brought in together. He reiterates things that were said before. Again, questions are asked like, what has your personal experience been with the school's approach to safety? And he says it's been great because he's never gotten seriously hurt in any of the times that like accidents did happen. Of course they do, they happen in any environment. He's been healed very quickly and everything's been fine. And they ask how the school handles conflicts between students, and he sort of, his eyes light up a little bit and he says there are none. Putting into context the fact that this is a very strange situation again with Boreal. This is the first case in a long time, at least in 5 years, based on what's being said here, that something like student-on-student violence has happened. The prosecution gets up and he asks, can you provide instances where the school's combat training may have led to injuries? Where he's forced to answer and say, yeah, well, of course it's martial arts, it's combat, people get hurt in that. And as he goes on to explain why, again, he gets cut off and that's it. So people get hurt. That's what he was looking for. Do you believe that the combat training at Maleficums is sufficient to prevent incidents like the ones we're discussing? And his only response is that I would have thought so. Like in my experience it was, but he doesn't know about Boreal's skill set, so it's a little bit outside of his expertise. And then he asks, were there any signs that Hatsu might react violently during stressful situations? Again, he's like kind of bullying Hatsu at this point. Like he keeps pulling back to what's being done, and he's trying to get more information about Hatsu, who is furiously flipping off the cameras. And at that point, they make the objection that it calls for speculation. And that the question should be more based on the witness's direct knowledge and stuff, and so he rephrases it to get the answer that he wants. I don't know. Hatsu sticks to himself. He keeps to himself. I wouldn't know. And this seems to be a reoccurring theme. Every time he asks these questions, he's trying to get this kind of information. At this point, they call for, like, they give the little gavel, and they call for, that's like a little gavel. Hi, Harley. They give a little gavel, and they take a recess. At that point, you guys like are allowed to go into the hallway and chatter amongst yourselves, and yeah, they take like 20 minutes to kind of move on to the next people. But at that point, you're free to talk amongst yourselves.
Fucking hate this guy.
Who? What?
Yes. Were you zoned out?
Of course. Do not listen with your eyes closed. Visualize the words, get the feeling.
Yeah, do you get the feeling that this guy is such an asshole?
He's definitely coursing the river to the source that he wants.
I honestly think this is potentially one step away from not only Hatsu arriving at Scorchwood, but all of us as well.
That seems to be what he's angling for. You read between the lines of his opening statement. Scorchwood is a place you, in particular, do not want to go.
Why?
Imagine the worst prison you could possibly imagine, and then multiply it by 10.
It's not even a prison. It's a place where they do horrific things to you until you can't take it any longer. And then they might, if you're lucky, end you.
Without thinking about it, hearing the exact couple of sentences that's just been said, how they've been said, without any thought, I changed my form to look like the, like I said, the machinist, the really skinny, lean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just changed to him in response to what I'm hearing.
Slate, that's... now's not the time for that.
If you have any way to control that, Slate, I suggest you change back to how you were in there. And I'll go up to him and I'll... Because she considers this very, very serious now at this point. So she'll go up to Slate and she'll put her hands either side of his face. We're all stressed. We obviously don't want this to happen to any of us, including Hatsu. Let's get rid of this man and do it properly, and then we will deal with Hatsu and Boreal ourselves. But for that, we need you as well. Now, can you do this?
Without saying a word, I'm just going to bend down to my bag. I'm going to open it, and I'm just going to flash all the tools. Nod.
Do you change back?
But then I'll just sit down to myself, if you know what I mean, and just focus on sort of calming myself and just take a couple of minutes and just slowly, not quickly, just get little parts change a piece at a time, so it's not a big thing, it's just gently melts away, and then I'll just focus on that for the next couple of minutes.
Like I said, we need to be united on this. Be careful about what you say.
I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure that I particularly like this place, but now the thought of losing it makes me realize how much I care for it. Also, with Hatsu, it's one of those, you know, you're shouting at your sibling, then someone else does it, and you say, no one shouts at my sibling. It's one of those situations. So I guess we're on the same team for now.
Arguably, that's Hatsu's defense as well, so let's not use that one right now, okay?
Thaddeus is good, but he's massively underestimating everyone else here. I think he thinks he just has to show up and win this one. That could be his undoing. Right, the defense are a bit stuttering themselves.
In fairness, I don't... Put it this way. I think most of the cards are in his favor, regardless. Just because, unlike everyone else that's being spoken to, he knows how to twist things.
Yes,
This is
but
where I'm hoping you might actually twist them back on him.
that's the plan. See, I think you say the cards are in his favor. He has but one card, but he knows how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of cards here, but they're scattered on the floor.
Yes. So it's up to you to put them together and play the best goddamn hand of poker you've ever played.
Looking at
I
my
start-
notes again.
Same thing. I start shuffling my notes, and now I start drawing lines between connecting certain statements and certain points, and making it a bit more cohesive.
Yeah.
We can do this.
With that, you all get summoned back in. I'll pick up the pace a little bit here on the kind of fly through of what's going on, but next up is kind of thinnish blonde lady. She sits down. Her name is Vina, and they call her Skylark. She gets asked questions like describe the school's approach to teaching spells, and like how does the school ensure safety, and she gets repeated questions from the defense. But the prosecution, they ask if there's any incidents or near misses involving flight and stuff like that. That's a very dangerous thing. Are you afraid that they'll drop you? That kind of thing. How confident are you in the school's ability to manage and mitigate risks associated to your powerful spell type? And then they do this kind of cross thing, and he looks kind of towards Hatsu and Boreal, and he's like, did you observe any unusual behavior of Boreal and Hatsu? And again, she's like, I didn't know them, so it's difficult to say. But she didn't notice anything, and then as she's saying that, she gets cut off. It moves forward, and then there's another guy who's called Kalden, Kalden, also known as Necro Walker. He gets asked about the school's handling and teaching of necromancy, which is a potentially dangerous type of magic, and other potential controversial forms of magic. And he says the school is very open to it, but in a controlled environment, into keeping it safe and in keeping people safe. Obviously, it's a dangerous type of magic. It's the flow of life versus the control of death. And so they ask what ethical guidelines are in place for students studying such a thing, and he explains that they take everything very seriously and very carefully, and it's not something that they play with or that they're reckless with. He gets very much so scrutinized more than a lot of other students because of the type of magic he's familiar with. And again, prosecution kicks in, and he asks, do you believe the teaching of necromancy can pose a risk to the student body and the community? And he says there shouldn't technically be a risk, but it depends. Like any weapon, it's about who wields it. And the prosecution turns around and says that's a very interesting choice of words. Have you ever been any incidents where necromancy were used irresponsibly at the school? And he says, not that I'm aware of. And it's like, aware of. Okay. Were there any indications that Boreal and Hatsu might misuse their magical abilities? And again, he says he doesn't really know them, but he doesn't think so based on the school's cut off. Same thing again. This continues. The next witness is actually the nurse. They bring her on, Martin, to talk about the defense This is all the defense's witnesses still. They're still just going through the list of witnesses. And the defense basically asks, can you describe the procedures in place for handling injuries or medical emergencies at the school? And they say, yes, there are guidelines for what you guys witnessed in the last session. So for handing out potions and healing and that kind of thing. And they ask, like, how does the school ensure the health and safety of its students? And she says there hasn't really been much in the way of like death or anything like that here. Like, as long as she's been here, it's always been that we've healed our students, we take care of them. There have been some close calls, such as last night, but that was a very rare exception because it was an out of the blue, uncontrolled situation, which is incredibly rare here. And it just highlights the importance of fixing that gap rather than closing down the entire place. And then it says, can you provide any examples of how the school responded effectively to past incidents? And she's just explaining again that even in the situation of what happened with Boreal, they were immediately out there with potions. It was barely 30 seconds before people were already healing up students and trying to do things. Whereas the prosecution talks about describing the nature and severity of the injuries sustained in recent incidents, and she has to talk about how bad the burns were, how people have had limbs nearly cut off in some cases of advanced training and stuff, which have been fixed and healed, and no scars even remain, but these are incidents that occurred. He asks, how frequently do you handle injuries related to magical mishaps, to which she has to say daily. And finally, were there any lapses in the school safety protocols that contributed to recent incidents? And she says, well, considering this was an unexpected incident, it's hard to have a protocol in place, but there will be after this. To which he sort of mumbles under his breath that this seems very short-sighted, like it's never expected once that a student will turn on other students. And then they just call for an objection and he just sits down. It goes on and on like this. They bring up Delphine and Gig, and they talk about like their roles as teachers. Delphine is a bit more hazy in what she's talking about, whereas Gig mostly talks about himself and his own experiences. But it always plays back to the same things, like, did you observe concerning behavior in Hatsu and Boreal? Do you believe that the school's ethical training is sufficient to prevent incidents like this? And things like that. He's trying to poke holes in every possible situation with the school. At this point, they want to call up sort of character witnesses of people who are involved in the event. Again, this is still the defense, and that would be you guys. Before that happens, though, they once again adjourn for kind of a quick recess for you guys to catch your breath. So you meet back up in the hall.
Eos is going to go for a little stroll outside, get some fresh air.
Yep.
As she's going, do you want to be alone, or do you want us to come with you?
Up to you.
Do you guys want to walk?
Go and take your walk. I want to do something else. And it might be best if I do this alone.
She just pulls a machine gun out of her jacket.
If I had it.
Make it right.
Wouldn't be the first person she may disappear.
Oh my god. I'll start with you then, Eos. What and those who are accompanying her on the walk, what are you guys doing?
Yep. Eos just going for a little walk outside. She's looking up at the sky. She's going to see if there's any birds flying around. She's just trying to get fresh air into her lungs and
There'd be a few.
get all this haze away from her mind. Too many people.
There's a few, and then you look down and you see the chicken has joined you, and it's just walking casually beside you. There's no sort of massive like issue with it. He didn't come up and start jumping around on you. He just matches your energy and just kind of strolls with you. Dash, you went with Eos, is that right?
No, I was just checking if she wanted company, but I'd actually look to see if Thaddeus is nearby.
No, he wouldn't be. He wouldn't be here. He's still in the room.
Cool. Yeah, in that case, I'll just I'll find a stool or something and rework my notes again.
Got you. And Madriana.
So, we haven't been told we have to leave that room, right? Just that this is recess, you can go and do what you want kind of thing.
Yeah, there's still plenty of people in the room as well, yeah.
I'm going to sneak my way back in, but I want to sit a little bit closer to Thaddeus. I want to watch him for a little while, for as long as I can, until people start coming in, and then I'll blend in with them to go back to where the group were.
Okay, make an insight check for me. I'll give you advantage, but we'll call that over the whole time you're doing it, yeah.
Okay.
It's more or less 2 checks, but I'll give you advantage.
Thank God for that 7.
7.
Fuck me.
No, with the 7, you don't pick up on too much, but that might be kind of telling. He's a little bit hard to read. Like, he exudes the energy he wants to exude. He is as charismatic as he wants to be. That's who he is. So it's kind of hard to read anything but what he wants you to read.
Okay. That's about him. About what he's wearing. What he's carrying.
Suit, briefcase, documents. Yeah.
Can I pick up names of, I don't know, offices? Can I pick up maybe who the tailor was? Can I pick up the make of briefcase where it might be sold? Like, I'm trying to get the tiniest little details to try and work out.
Nuggets.
Yeah.
Not so much text, because you would have to be so close that it would be like people would just see you sort of there. But the briefcase is very, very expensive, likely from Palperoth. The symbol on it is the symbol for the crisis response unit, and as such, it just shows that he is a valued member of their staff. Like, this is a very expensive suit. Like, we're not talking Dash. Like, Dash has a suit that looks expensive. This is a suit that is expensive. There's a very key difference there. In terms of price, like, this suit probably costs more money than what you've ever had in your own hands, if that makes sense. Like, and that's a lot. Like, it's a lot. Very finely crafted and tailored, and yeah, like, it just screams wealth. Yeah.
Okay, so there's no tailor's tag that I can make out, no, nothing like that.
Nothing
Okay.
like that, no.
Okay. Can I? Did the core tribunal guys, did they stay in as well?
Yeah, they'd be talking amongst themselves. Remington isn't there, but everybody else is. Yeah.
Out of those 4, then that are still there.
6, yeah.
Sorry, 6. Oh, I thought it was 4, and then he was in the middle. Sorry.
3 and 3.
Out of those, then, who seemed to, overall during the thing going on so far, like, because I'd heard the rumor from the students that a couple were for it and a couple were against it. Have I been able to determine that based on their reactions to what's been said?
Yeah. So it's pretty much split 3 and 3. So people like Yasma Cognizance, Opaline, Perusal, and Isabel, they are sort of in favor of the place, like, not necessarily continuing, or at least shutting down till such a time that they would have made it more secure. Whereas Noral Hikmah, Willard Powerhouse, and Helga Daunt are in the category of, let's just stay open and work on this as a unit together, because you can do more with all of you, and like all the students and everybody contributing than they can with just 1 or 2 people working on this with the school closed. So
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Cool. And like I said, when people start filtering back in, I'll drift and get back in with the rest of them.
Yeah.
While all this is happening, what I would like to do is just go down the corridor, into the bathroom, whatever it is, into a stall, and I'd like to turn into one of the many students that I have spent weeks impersonating already, and then I want to bolt towards anywhere that has, like, the magic runes, the hot plates that serves food. It doesn't matter. Anyone's dorm, anyone's room, anywhere. And what I want to do, so what I want to do is I want to get hot coffee, stew, like all sorts of stuff like that. And I want to get 2, doesn't matter, 2 plates, trays, anything that will hold a number on each of coffee, stew, etc. in 2 hands. And then I want to more or less burst into the room and then start walking really enthusiastically up, straight up to Thaddeus. I suppose the 2 councils that have their 2 desks side by side, I want to go in between them with all these trays of stuff.
Sure. Yeah, nobody tries to stop you or anything.
Perfect. So when as I'm walking up, I want to start to say to, Thaddeus, oh my God, you're really famous. You're really famous. I've heard all about you. And I want to go to the Defense Council and put 1 tray down that has soup and coffee and say, I brought you refreshments, lunch, things like that. And as I put down the tray for them, I get off balanced and I want to drop everything, soup, stew, everything, all over his notes, his books, on everything. Obviously, I then want to be as apologetic as possible and start trying to mop it up off him. I'm really sorry, I'm so sorry, and start trying to clean it up, but I'm just smudging it all over his notes, pushing things on the floor, trying to fix it and making up balls of it.
I'll get you to make a performance check for me, please.
I love you, Richard.
This is brilliant.
No. Natural 20.
That'll do it.
Fuck yes.
Oh,
Not 20 for 25 for the podcast listeners.
Yeah, for total of, that's right, yeah. He... Oof.
oof, indeed.
He's pissed. To the point where he shoves you back. Or attempts to. I'm not sure if you're allowing that or if I need to make a contest for that.
No, I'll totally let it, yeah.
Yeah, he seems to care more about the briefcase, I think, than the documents. He takes sort of the documents out and he just starts raining soup out of his briefcase. And he just picks up all his stuff and he makes a beeline for out the back towards where there's a restroom and stuff.
And the whole point of me choosing things like coffee is because it stains, it's dark.
yeah.
Things like stew is because it has chunks, it's wet, it clings to stuff. And my whole purpose of that was trying to throw off his organization, throw off his game, potentially ruin some of his documents, his notes, whatever it may be, throw him off. But when he pushes me back, what I'd like to do immediately as he starts to gather his stuff to go out is I just want to start crying and run out of the room. Just run out of the room, and then I'll go back down to the bathroom, change back and come back out.
Okay. Yeah,
Bravo.
no worries. With a nat 20, I will give you that. That's fine. You absolutely do that. He walks out. He goes to a different restroom, like way in the back. He goes through the council thing. Can you just make one more check for me, please? I'm going to get you to make an insight check, if you wouldn't mind.
I love that there's a student sitting in the pews like, wait, that's me.
Damn it, Jeffrey.
Oh my god.
22.
Holy shit. Most of the council is looking at this guy leaving the room who just pushed a student, and there's kind of like a look of like, what the fuck on their faces. They watch him leave, except Remington, who is off to the side. He's just way off in the corner. He's talking to some people. He is looking at you, but there's just this smile on his face, this knowing smile, first of all, of who did what, and second of all, of what you just did. And it's kind of like a knowing nod that's so subtle that you would need a 22 to pick up on it. Yeah.
Perfect. That's me done. I just come back to the group, and obviously they have no idea because I went to the bathroom and left and went up. So I just come back, look for Dash if he's in the corridor doing notes or whatever it is, and I'll just sit nearby and do the same. Go back to my notes and carry on as if nothing has happened.
Yeah.
So I was thinking if we take the angle that obviously that the school can plan for things going forward, that you can't plan for something that's never happened. That's a good angle, right?
Potentially.
It's like Slate has no idea what he's even talking about. He's just like come back into the conversation, but Dash didn't even notice.
Just one
Good,
thing
yes,
before we
yes,
hit
that'll
the resume button. Eos would like to rustle chicken's ears. Give me a good old pet and a smooch on the forehead.
Roll for tussle. No, you're good. Yeah, absolutely. You give scritches.
Yep.
It's always a
Let
nat
me
20 on scritches.
head back.
Yeah, absolutely. Hatsu, I want to kind of turn to you for a moment. What's sort of going through your head at this point based on the proceedings and situation? You've got your brother next to you. Like, yeah, tell me about Hatsu.
To be fair, he's still calm. He finds reasonability in every point that was brought up. He's not unfamiliar with these kind of situations, not that he's been into trials or hearings or whatever, but he knows how politics work, and he has a decent understanding how difficult it is to politically balance such a place as the Arcanum.
Yeah.
So he's kind of collecting himself to represent more than just a student.
Yeah.
He's a little worried that Boreal might fuck it up. But while he's preparing, he's kind of sneakily, carefully does some hand signs next to Boreal that he would understand to calm down, to breathe, to pray, and to don't say anything at all.
Boreal takes a deep breath, but you would pick up on the fact that this is a very shaky breath. Like, you know, when you have anxiety and you're trying to shed that, you take the deep breath, but it's almost like, not you've been crying, but that same emotional state on an exhale. You hear that.
He understands that he might go through things that has already been from the past that get brought up back in his mind, and that he doesn't know how to deal with it. So what he does, when he realizes that he is struggling, he puts a hand on his knee, like they kind of tied up next to each other. I imagine him like being a little bit forwarded, like leaning forward, and he puts like a hand on the knee, and he would say, he would just look to him and he would say, "Family, we are one tree. We live from our roots. There's nothing to worry about. I was then with you. Today I'm with you, and I will be with you tomorrow."
I like that. As Thaddeus enters the room again, looking tremendously pissed off, but determined as fuck. Like, if anything, his determination has risen another 20%. Like, he has one more reason to shut this fucking place down. But he is pissed. What effects that has had on him, we'll find out after we take a break. After the break, we will return and our party shall take the stage, so to speak. In the meantime, feel free chat to fight the boss. I'll put that up. It's going to be an easy mode one because we only have 10 minutes. So good luck. And for those of you watching on YouTube, this will just be a quick while I fix some stuff here in the background because our music is going haywire today. So I'm going to do my best to get that working. I saw some questions in chat. I saw some subs. I saw some bits. Thank you so much. It's really nice to see chat answering questions for each other and helping each other out and keep people catching up and stuff. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for the hype train. It was crazy, and the subs and the bits, and it's wild. It's an absolute party. Another gifted sub. Thank you so much. It's an absolute party in chat, and I really do appreciate it. And I know this has been a very heavy session. I'm excited for the tavern post session sometime when you guys are just sitting there having fun again, because this is heavy as shit. And I'm worried for my
good.
But there is Shaq memes to keep you up to date on Discord, so go have a look in the stream chats.
Feel free on YouTube, you'll see the Discord link under thing, and in chat Twitch, you'll see it there. We're gonna take.
Also, before we have a break, cat.
Oh damn! Is that the same cat as always? Is that a different cat?
No. This is Bowie.
Did you just dye that cat white? Did you bleach it? That's illegal, man.
No, he's over there.
Also, that cat looks swole.
This cat does look swole. That's the Slate cat. Look at that. Like, that cat comes in later and it's like black and white, and it comes in later and it's ginger, and like, yeah. Excellent. Sorry. So for those of you in the podcast, you just hold up a pure white cat. I hope you guys enjoy the boss fight and stuff. We'll be back in exactly 10 minutes. 9 p.m. Irish time. We'll continue then. And if you have any questions, throw them in chat. We'll do our best to answer them. Thank you so much. See you shortly. Bye. And we are back. We did it. That's it. Nice. Thank you so much. We defeated the boss. Crazy. Once in a blue moon.
Once in a blood moon? What?
What? Boreal, sit down. Yeah, no. So we pick up from the case here as we go in. People will be called up and questioned. Much the same, but you will be the first group of first years who are to do so. So let me find some kind of actually tense music for us, because
I like that.
This has been pretty tricky.
This is like, don't worry, guys. This is a environment. What was the chicken lawyer?
Foghorn Leghorn, yeah.
Foghorn Leghorn thing, yeah.
So the first one called up is Amadriana. You're called up at a defense.
She will stand up and make her way over to wherever she's meant to sit.
Yeah.
And sits down.
It's a bit unusual for you to look across the room and see so many people looking back at you, because normally your whole goal in life is to be at the back of that crowd, not even noticed by the person you're looking at.
Yeah.
So this is probably a little bit out of your, like fish out of water.
Unseen in plain sight.
The gentleman walks up and he smiles and he's like, Madriana, can you provide your account of the events leading up to and during the incident for me, please?
Leading up to it, we were heading down into the main hall and obviously saw everyone gathering. And at that point, it seemed that something had taken over Boreal and started to attack the students.
How did the school environment contribute to the incident, if at all?
The school environment didn't really contribute or negate. It's a purposeful building. Has its hallways, has its doors, had room for people to be able to move through and get past and drop down back into different rooms and stuff to avoid what was happening. It was just a momentary thing that happened quicker than most people can react.
Yes. What measures do you think could improve the safety at this school based on the events that you have seen in your short time here?
Quite honestly, I haven't really seen any safety concerns with regards to this school.
There's a small murmur of people that pick up on that and favor and against, like the room makes that quiet murmur.
By the very nature of the people here, they can be dangerous. But I would argue that out there, in the other parts of the lands, they can be equally as dangerous to each other. The security here is based on what is needed. As one of the previous people up here had said, now that we understand that this is even a remote possibility, it's something that can be allowed for. Something that can be sorted for next time, if there were to be a next time.
You see a smile on your defendant's face and a very big frown on Mr. Soupy Pants. They just say, no further questions, thank you, and they sit down. There's a quiet murmur again across the crowd. People whispering in a hush. And then the prosecution, he stands up, Thaddeus stands up, and he looks around the room. And then he looks towards you. Do you believe the school did enough to prevent such incidents from occurring?
Yes.
Did you observe any warning signs that could have prevented or predicted that this incident could occur? And they call for objection, for speculation. I am simply asking what she observed. And they sort of allow that to continue. So, like, did you see anything that would have suggested that this could occur?
I saw nothing that could have suggested that this was a possibility, or even in the moment, anything that could have been reacted upon in any more proficient way than it was. no more than you could have moved out of the way of that soup that came towards you.
There's a quiet, like, oh, across the room, and they like they're just trying to get a like order. Yes, well, if you were as quick with your abilities as you were with your words, maybe these incidents wouldn't occur, and I wouldn't have had to come here. Were you aware of any
but
attention?
you say that, yet it was me and my friends here that did act quickly enough to
Interesting
stop
that you
it.
say that, friends. Of course, you are friends with two of the accusees, correct?
No. I am friends was a little bit overzealous of me, I will say. Colleagues. We haven't known each other long enough to be called friends. The other one, I know merely as an acquaintance of one of my colleagues.
Were you aware of any tensions or issues involving Boreal or Hatsu prior to this incident?
No, none at all.
He just says no further questions. He goes back to his briefcase and he sits down, which relieves you from your stand.
May I say anything extra?
The council sort of murmur amongst each other and then they nod for now, tentatively.
Before this incident, when was the last known incident within this school? I'm asking this to the council.
Well, that certainly
Roughly.
depends on what you would consider to be an
Ballpark.
incident. There are incidents every day in the sense that they're small,
Incident
but
to this
large.
level. To this level.
I don't even know if there has been major incidents at the school like this in a very, very long time.
And how long has the school been opened?
Oh, centuries. Well over 1,000 years.
So, in well over 1,000 years, this is the one and only possible documented thing of this
Well,
level.
in recent history, there were other principals. My family before me, for example, were responsible for this school. But of course, it's a little hard to say. I don't keep a mental record of this, but I'm sure we can find that information for you.
So, Mr. Thaddeus, you say this school isn't equipped to deal with such things. Yet this is the first one in such a long time.
I would argue it's the second in a very short period, given that two assailants were walking these halls just nights before. Who's to say incidents like this just haven't gone reported?
Maybe that's because, like in the open world, and I'm sure with your own men, there are things that happen daily that are just taken as part of the process. You
Well,
also say about the misuse of, and I noticed that you were very keen to pick up on that, the misuse of things. Is it not misuse that you use your eyes to judge everyone in this room?
I use my common sense to judge everyone in this room.
But if you couldn't see them, you wouldn't be able to judge. The point is that I'm trying to make is that as naturally as it is for you to use your eyes to look around this room and make your judgments, it's as natural as to these people to do the things they're able to do. They didn't ask for it. They wasn't made to do it. They had to learn to judge and to use it properly. Just as you have had to learn how to use what you've got.
Defense, are you going to call your next witness, or are we just going to have this back and forth for the rest of the day? And the courtroom kind of just ushers you.
I stand up.
Yeah.
I stand up and walk away, kind of stretched a little bit more.
Well, if you would call your next witness, and he sort of stands up again. The slick back hair. He stands up, and he's like, "Yeah, if we could speak to." He's looking at his notes. Slate.
Well, I stand up and start making my way to where I'm supposed to be.
When you sit down, he's smiling at you. It's a nice, like, kind of experience in a sense. Like, it's not like as nervous as you think it would be. Like, the nerves may flip when Thaddeus stands up, but for the moment, given that it's Eldrick, there's probably just a more sense of calm based on his demeanor. Eldrick says, can you provide your account of events during the incident with Boreal and his use of this magic?
The same as what you've just heard. Was nearby, heard a commotion, arrived, Boreal kicked off. Immediately, the students rallied together. Everybody pushed to end the incident, restrain him, help him. Ultimately, everybody was okay afterwards. Nobody was permanently injured or damaged, no damage to the school. Everybody who was involved in it was taken into the custody. Everything was made public, passed on to you. Everything was discussed. Nobody left the island. It was affected outside of the school. I mean, it's fairly small, really, in a training facility like this. These things are supposed to happen. Life happens, things will always happen. How we respond is the measure, and in this case, of the school. It happened, it was dealt with. Everything is as it was, other than the fact that we're here now.
And how is the school's environment influenced of your perception of this sort of safety and support, given particularly in this situation?
Well, given that I was given fencing lessons and I was able to knock both of them out non-lethally, and here's where we are because of it, I'd say pretty good, because without the training, that probably wouldn't have happened. So
I'm going to give you, and actually I'm going to retrospectively give Ryan one as well here. I want you both to make a persuasion check with advantage based on what Slate just said and Madriana, what you had said just prior to the ending part there as well.
Ooh. 10.
10?
That'll be a 21.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Sorry, just reminded myself there. The defense sort of smiles at you, and you look across and you see the lady who's sitting there as well. She's smiling as well. What you said obviously resonated in some capacity. And what measures do you think the school should have taken or should take to, improve the handling of these situations?
Very little, some minor adjustments. I mean, it was mentioned earlier that this place has to prove it can handle magic users. I argue the incident happened, it was contained, students were restrained, everybody was okay, no injuries, no spillover, like we said. The school proved that it can and will handle and will contain any issues. Thereafter, this is a safe space to learn. People need to make mistakes to learn to control what they have. The whole point of here is going out of here, learning to control whatever we have. If you're not able to exercise those powers, how can you possibly learn to control them in the real world, under a moment of stress or panic or otherwise? So this is supposed to be that place to learn, to practice, to make mistakes, where it can be all made good afterwards. So that's basically, yeah, I mean, magic is always going to exist. People are always going to have it. Things are always going to happen. Like I said, the school is teaching us and everyone else how to deal with it, shaping our minds, our actions. We talked about a beacon of knowledge, education, harnessing magic abilities. I mean, we're only here a number of weeks and look what we've accomplished already. So I think it's proof that students who complete all their training, all their classes, and go the distance, I mean, the whole point is ultimately to be available should there be a raised threat for somebody who didn't come through here, or, is an issue somewhere else, is to be available to help, to do better.
No further questions. And he goes back to his seat and he sits down, and they're both kind of giving you a thumbs up, which is a little bit unusual, but it's a nice.
I'm just gonna say, are you sure? Because I have more, much more, but it's more of the same.
Yeah, that he stands up and he walks over, and you can hear the sort of the leather of his shoes like creaking on the floor, step after step, the echoes. You mentioned these race threats and how this school is breeding a generation of people who can handle them. So are you saying you doubt in the nature of the crisis response unit and their ability to clean up the messes made by magic users?
No, I'm saying this is another facet, another tool, something that's been proven. We've just heard how it's been here for over 1,000 years, generations of principles, etc. The system works, otherwise it wouldn't be here. It would have been closed long before we got here. So this is just a training exercise, a blip. We've already covered all of this, so it speaks for itself. Actions speak louder than words. History is repeating in a positive way. That's why the school's still here, so are we.
And did you observe any signs or any warning signs that could have prevented this incident from occurring?
If you're referring to the incident a couple of nights prior, that's just another example of something happening and students who've just arrived at the school, having been prepared a little bit by the school, dealing with it, and nobody being injured, no students being hurt, etc.
If I understand correctly, one of the students was hurt. They ended up in the medical wing. Am I mistaken?
Do you define hurt as something that's temporary, fleeting, and passing, or something that's permanent?
How fleeting and passing could it have been? This is something that could have been quite permanent.
Points at Boreal. Looks fine to me. I don't know what your problem is.
Were you aware of any issues or tensions involving Boreal or Hatsu prior to this incident?
I mean, maybe some problems in classes, not being good at stealth and some other things and having to work on it, but nothing any other student doesn't have to work on.
Boreal's like, hey.
As he trips and smashes his face on the front of the
right.
seat that he's on.
Yeah, no further questions. He's like done with talking to you because your rebuttal is always so clean. He just doesn't want to pursue anything else with you at the moment. As someone in the back of the room does a fucking sweet jazz solo. Yeah, they clear the floor for you to leave. Basically, he sits back down and he ruffles his paper, but as you're walking past, you catch that a lot of it's stuck together and he's trying to like get the papers removed. There's just still residue and soup, and long after today there will be parts of this that he has to take care of. Yeah.
And as I walk past, I'll just say, as I said, things happen, things will always happen. I look down at all this stuff and I go, it's the measure of how we deal with it, remember? And I go back and sit down.
For fuck's sake. Oh, well, on that note, we would call Dash Heidman up to the stand. I almost had a GDPR moment. I was like, shit, did I just say his last name? And I was like, oh wait, no, I can say that name. It was like, just thought
Say
it was...
my last. Did you say his last name? Is it me who has my full name and my Twitch handle?
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I just like had a freak out moment in my own heart just went crazy.
Just watch Rory have the same moment right there.
The two of us just panic. We're bred that way. You approach the stand, you sit down. You have the same kind of clunky leather boots thing as he does, as Thaddeus does. So when you move in and you sit down, there is a recognition there. Although your clinking, creaking sounds slightly cheaper somehow.
As I sit, I'd like to kind of make eye contact with Thaddeus and just kind of very deliberately look down towards his now stained suit, I imagine, then raise my eyes back up and just tilt the head ever so slightly before engaging with the defense.
Pissing him off. You're pissing him off. He walks up. Sorry, I can't say he in this situation. Eldrick walks up. Not Thaddeus. He just comes up and decks you. No, Eldrick walks up, and he's like, "Hi, Dash. Can you describe your actions and observations during the incident with Boreal and this spell? I heard you were quite pivotal in this process."
In a manner of speaking, yes. Well, I observed Boreal floating. I thought it best to get him down from there. I got him down from there, and I restrained him so that the incident may be managed.
I don't know why, but I expected more eloquent talk from, I saw him, I got him down, I thought he should get down from there, so I got him down from there. Oh, very, very well. Oh no, I dropped into the wrong voice there, my apologies. And how do you feel about the school's handling of the situation as a whole, given that it was sort of your life on the line in this situation, right?
That's maybe a touch exaggerated. I mean, I'm fine. It was all fine. It is evidently it was an issue that had not arisen before, so one cannot be entirely prepared. What had been done very well was preparing the students to adapt on the fly to situations they may not have encountered before. Sure, there was no specific protocols in place for this exact one, but I would argue that those who were present acted nobly and rapidly to contain the incident, and it just goes to prove that the teachings of this school are not just theory, they perform very well in practice.
Very good. And what do you believe actually led to this incident? And the other guy, Thaddeus, just shouts objection, leading, and he's like, well, in your opinion, how could it have been prevented?
Ooh, an interesting question. Now, I must affirm, in no uncertain terms, I do not wield any of the mystical arts myself. Now, my life is profoundly interwoven with those who do, but my journey here has been devoid of any arcane prowess. So, to answer your question, one would require much more study in the nature of the arcane, that of which I have not been the beneficiary of at the moment.
I see. Well, is there anything additional that you feel should be noted in this situation, considering your closeness to it? Yeah.
I don't believe so. The issue was contained. It happened. We have learned from it. We can now put appropriate protocols in place and be thankful that it occurred in an environment where there were people educated in the arts and abilities to deal with it, and not that it happened randomly, shall we say, in the heart of Palperoth.
Yeah. As you say that, he smiles, but you look over and see that Thaddeus is definitely not smiling. He is a lion about to pounce on a meal. He is pissed, and he's hunting. As the defense sits down, the prosecution stands up, and he approaches you, very slowly clinking the boots. Not the boots, excuse me, the shoes. Beautiful shoes. I find it interesting that you are so casual and blasé. Are you aware of the potential risks of what Boreal's actions led to the other night?
To address the core of your question would be to embark on an odyssey through a landscape riddled with the shadows of precedent, the mist of interpretive ambiguity, and the flickering lights of theoretical supposition, each element demanding its own comprehensive analysis.
If you could directly answer the question for the court, I'm sure they would appreciate that.
To answer directly, that inquiry would beckon us into the intricate tapestry of arcane historical nuances, where the warp and weft of precedent and esoteric doctrine intertwine in such a manner that each thread must be meticulously examined before one can even begin to perceive the broader pattern it forms.
He looks towards the center of the council, who are kind of smirking, and Remington is like, Dash, if you could just directly answer the question for him so that we could move forward with the proceedings.
What was your question again?
So I'll take it based on your responses that you're unaware of the danger that was posed upon your life in the situation involving Boreal the other night.
Let me put it to you this way. Others may have been in danger. I did not at any stage feel that my life was threatened. I felt in a safe and secure environment, knowing that those around me had the ability to suppress the situation and contain and control it in a more than appropriate manner.
He moves over towards his notes and he looks down and he starts shuffling through and he can't find what he's looking for, it seems, so he moves forward. Do you believe that the school did enough to prevent this incident from occurring to you? You're a victim here. You understand that, Dash, don't you?
I have never felt less of a victim in my life. In fact, I feel quite empowered being here to know that when I go out into the world, I can assist in matters not just of the mundane, but also of the arcane should need arise.
You were born and bred in Palperoth, is that correct?
This is correct.
So you are aware of how seriously we take these situations.
I am very aware.
If an event like this were to occur in Palperoth, and we treated it with the same diligence as we're treating it here, do you think that would be fair to the victims who wouldn't have been stuffed full of healing potions? There's like a massive objection. Both of them stand up and they're just talking about leading, and he's like, all right, let me rephrase it. Given your experiences here tonight, how much of a threat do you believe that they pose to a place like Palperoth or another location where innocent people could be hurt?
Let me answer your question with another question. How many do you think die of starvation in Palperoth because the wealthy hoard everything and the poor cannot afford so much as a loaf of bread to feed themselves? I think that is much more of a danger than
I would say
such an incident has not happened in Palperoth in my living memory. It happened here once, twice in your argument, yet it was very much contained.
Yeah, in a place where the crisis response unit does not abide the incidents occur. Interesting. Thank you.
Well, that is precisely the argument. They weren't even needed here.
He steps away and he sits down. No further questions. Thank you.
Oh, you have something on your shoes.
A voice that may or may not come from a similar direction to Slate just shouts across the court, imagine what would happen if they didn't finish their training here. Then what would happen?
Order. Just some dude in the corner. Order.
Did you say order?
Order!
I'll have a cheeseburger, fries.
Next up, if it's all right, we'll get yourself Eos, if you wouldn't mind.
Just gets up slowly. She stretches out her clothes, gets up to the chair, and she scoots the chair forward towards the table because she's shorter than everyone else, and she's ready to go.
You sit down, and I imagine you don't take much notice of the people that are staring at you, probably by choice. Sorry, I need to pause for 1 second. Dash, I need a persuasion check with advantage, please.
Yes, sir. That is a dirty 20.
Perfect. Thank you. So with that, sorry, Eos. The gentleman walks up. Eldrick walks up to you, and he he first asks, are you comfortable? Do you need some water? Or...
Black coffee, please.
Right. We'll send for that. Can you provide your account of the events during the incident with Boreal and the spell?
Absolutely. It was magnificent. Absolutely stunning.
You know?
Oh, no.
Now, what happened when I arrived to the scene behind everyone else, it was very short because my memory went blank very quickly. And then my wonderful friend and colleague, Dash, grabbed my body, took me towards somewhere that someone could actually help me and give me some healing. It was fantastic. I was awake again. And in the midst of all the chaos, I decided to intervene to try and break the chain that was in control of Boreal, because Boreal was clearly not himself, not in control of himself. So I did what I could. I tried to awaken his mind, to shake him from the distance, to rattle him awake. And then all together, as a group as a whole, us little tiny first years, not the fifth years, not the people who should be doing their jobs, but us, we saved the day.
There's like a long silence for a moment there as I, the DM, process what was just said. And how has the school environment influenced your perception of the safety and support that you receive here?
Well, it's clearly safe and good enough that us first years are capable of stopping such situations. The only thing that I do think is a hazard is the corners of the desks and tables are very sharp and pointy. That is a bit of a problem.
What measures do you think could improve the school's handling of such incidents, pointy or not?
Well, what happened to Boreal was unavoidable. That was clearly influenced by the Crimson Moon, so unless they're going to blow up the moon, I don't see how you're going to fix that.
There is no longer a hush over the room as everyone starts to talk quite loudly. Could you elaborate on that for me, please, if you wouldn't mind, Eos? May I call you that? May I call you Eos?
Of course, you can call me whatever you want.
Thank you. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind elaborating for me, please.
History dictates that the Crimson Moon has some kind of influence in all of us, human or not, no matter what it is. As we all know, the moon creates the tides of the sea, the flowing of water, the movement of nature. And when such events occur, the balance becomes unbalanced. Like the heart and the feather, the scales are tilted. And something inside all of us, magical or not, is awoken. Whatever happened to Boreal was a force that awoken within him, beyond his control. Even if he was dead, he would have come back somehow.
There's a lot of like murmur across the room, and people are like, at this point, talking loudly. There's gavel slam, and no further questions. He sort of steps away from this point because you're like talking about like very specific things, and he's not sure which way that's going. But Thaddeus, on the other hand, knows exactly where this is going. So you're saying, and by your suggestion, the moon is causing magic users to be out of control of their own actions. Is that correct?
No. Not
but
whatsoever.
That is what you just said a moment ago, is it not?
That is not precisely what I said. I would like a transcript of this conversation.
I have to wait for the VOD. So, if you're suggesting that Boreal was out of action, out of his own actions, given the situation with the moon, you're saying that any Crimson Moon that we receive could theoretically turn any magic user into a race threat immediately?
Magical or non-magical.
Speculation.
Creatures of the forest would be influenced. If you had not heard in that night, the owls were hooting louder than usual. The growls were coming from the forest. Every living being tilted.
You certainly have a lot of knowledge of this, considering you say your memory went blank. in the situation?
Mm-hmm.
Did it go blank because you were rendered unconscious or potentially dead in that moment?
I don't know.
Were you aware of any issues or tensions involving Boreal and Hatsu during this process or prior to it?
No, actually. Everything was lovely. We were preparing a small space in Hatsu's room or near it for Boreal to actually arrive in.
It was just wholesome as fuck. Going back, tell me more of what you understand about this moon. It sounds like you've done quite a lot of research into our crimson moons.
I had to occupy myself when I couldn't be seen in the outside. As you would know specifically, people like me are not allowed to exist in the daylight.
It sounds like for good reason, based on what you're describing. How do I know that the next crimson moon won't turn you into a threat against me, or some innocents within Palperoth, or even the entire Wandering Oz?
I've never been to Palprop. I don't want to go there.
You wouldn't be let in.
Why?
It's just not for the likes of you.
So rude.
So, my understanding of the situation is that a blood moon can arise randomly at any time, turn any magic user in any town, city, or village into a potential threat. And given that, I would argue that, yes, this place should be shut down and magic users should be rounded up based on just your testimony today.
No.
No further questions. He walks to his chair and he sits down.
Why don't you like me?
He very much so ignores you. He also, he twisted what he wanted out of what you were saying. I'm going to give you a persuasion check, but I'm going to give you a single check rather than advantage because he's playing against you. So rather than give you disadvantage or give you advantage, I'll just give you a neutral roll. 15. Okay, noted. There's only 2 more witnesses for the defense that they wish to call up. The first of which is Hatsu. Your shackles are removed so that you can carefully walk up and sit down. So Eldrick stands up and he sort of smiles down to you, but respectfully, and he bows slightly. Toshitsugu Hatsu, can you describe your actions and intentions during the incident involving Boreal? And, of course, your friends during the evening in question?
He kind of bows back slightly. And he starts with... First, I want to thank the representative of the crisis unit for caring. I want to thank everybody that has attended this hearing for caring. I think everybody heard had valuable points that must be heard. To answer your question, I arrived at the front doors of this arcanum of magic and might because there was a crowd gathering, and we were curious what might have happened there. I saw my brother, Boreal, floating in the air, and he was clearly not conscious as I knew him.
That must have been difficult
There has
for you.
been
Sorry.
there has been magic used that I never saw him using before. So I was quite sure that he was not in a conscious state where he would do reasonable actions. As some of you might know, I'm also trained in kind of a crisis unit myself. And he looks over to Tedious Toddler.
Tedious toddler. Take inspiration for that if you don't have it. That was really good. I like that play on words.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And
Tedious toddler.
as we learned there, if you have reasonable suspicion that somebody is not acting on his own behalf, we were trained to find ways to bring their normal state of mind back with routines they pretty much know by heart. So I started to sit down and make a prayer that he and me were raised by in the attempt to get him back into consciousness. As people took action to find their own ways to handle the situation, I was confronted with an individual named Westland that did start to attack my brother. I was not only feared about a life-ending threat for my brother, more so was I feared that his situation would get worse in attempts to defend himself in his unconscious situation where magic seems to just whirl around him and out of him. So I tried to do my best to keep that threat away from him. That's why I made the decision to get Wesleyan out of action, to keep control over the situation.
I'm sorry for this difficult time for you and your family. How do you feel about the support and training provided by the school? You appear to be quite disciplined and as you said, a sort of crisis member yourself in that sense. Given that, how do you feel the school lives up to that record that you hold?
As anybody that might have had training in a force-like environment, if it's kind of police force for smaller cities or military forces for bigger ones, we all have the same purpose. We are there to protect the life of the many. But as everybody that is trained in this kind of environment also knows, you can't train for everything, but you can prepare your mind to be in a position where you can be dynamic in these situations. As we, as students, saw that there's harm made to other students, we took action. And I think it's this very institution that helped us to do that with the best of our knowings, with the best of our capabilities and skill sets.
What do you believe led to this incident?
I don't think that there's indications for such thing to happen, especially not on that scale. As we know from history, there's many situations that people can be in, trained or untrained, that might keep your mind in different and difficult situations. We have seen soldiers that have changed after large battles, that couldn't sleep anymore, that wouldn't eat proper. Their mind got sick from the stuff that they have witnessed. We have seen people that might have split to protect themselves from bad things they have seen. They got more than one person living inside of them. To give you an accurate answer, if there was an indicator, there wasn't. If there would have been an indicator that he would behave like that, my family would be the first to let the authorities know that there might be such a thing as a threat.
Given that, I think the answer is probably clear, but do you believe that the incident could have been avoided?
If I would had any evidence whatsoever that this might have happened, I would have prevented it myself.
I'm sure you would have, Mr. Toshitsugu. Thank you so much. No further questions. He goes and he sits down and he talks to his colleague and they make some notes and they're kind of happy with how that went. It was a very honest and open process. Thaddeus stands up. Mr. Toshitsugu of the Toshitsugu clan in Saigo no Toshi, I assume. You come from a family with a stellar reputation. Yet given the situation and circumstance, while others fell, you chose to pray and then wield your own blade against your allies, going by your own words. Do you acknowledge the harm caused by your actions during this incident?
As I explained, I value the things your organization stands for. I value your caring about things. We might not share the same view over everything. Nevertheless, every view is important to me, my family, and the people that are sitting around here. So with all due respect, if you don't feel one of your crisis response unit is acting properly, out of his mind, act suspiciously, you might try to get him out of that first before you punish him. Is that correct?
We would bench him, take him out of the field so he doesn't hurt others, and then break down the consequences of whatever actions were taken.
That is an approach that one might take. I chose the other way around, because to me he was a bigger threat, felt threatening and harmed with that level of magic. So in my calculation, that would have been the outcome with more harm for the many. So I chose the other way around to get him back in his mind, to prevent further damage.
And by wielding a blade against your allies in that moment who were purely there trying to assist you, are you aware that you could have killed them?
That time I took your approach, where I felt there is no time to talk about it. So the threat had to be punished and then be healed afterwards.
So given that, I assume that what you're intentionally saying here is that if the circumstances were the same tomorrow, you would wield your blade aggressively against your allies again in the heat of battle. They shout objection for self-incrimination. Remington decides that you are allowed to continue if you wish, but this could potentially be self-incrimination.
Well, I wouldn't, and I tell you why. Tomorrow, if the same thing would happen, all these nice ladies and gentlemen would have more information, would be more confident with that situation, would be known what to do. The same way you would know how to handle the individuals that are under your control if they misbehave, and you would find out why. You would try to keep that reason away for them so they can function within the reasonability of your cause. So, with all due to respect, if somebody thinks there's nothing to be learned and you could prepare for everything that has to come, we shall all might pray and practice.
No further questions. He just goes and he sits down and he is not happy with how that went. In his eyes, he's talking to a potential attempted murderer, and through your eyes, you're talking to someone who acted accordingly given a tense situation. I'm going to give you advantage on your check because you outplayed him quite possibly, predictably, I should say. So you can...
What was it again? It was
Persuasion.
persuasion with advantage. Oh, I used my inspiration right
With a
away,
6
man.
with advantage. I think Richard got a 7 earlier with advantage too, man. You guys are just... Oh.
I used my inspiration. Oh, I roll that again. Jesus Christ,
I typically
13.
take the first roll, but I think it is 13. Yeah, it's 13 anyway, so that's cool. Okay. 13. Okay. You go back to your seat, but the shackles are put back on.
Wait, mate, may I add one more perspective? Short, I keep it short.
And nobody's going to stop you from just speaking, I guess. Not right away, anyway.
Okay, before, let's phrase it that way. He stands up. He kind of bows towards the representative from the school. He kind of bows towards the attorneys. And he bows towards the tedious toddler. And he says, May I leave you with one thought?
Yes, I think that would be quite fair, if you wish. If there's something you wish to add, of course.
Once upon a time, people were curious about the ocean. They started to see fish, which was quite beneficial for them, because they kind of learned that they can eat it. A little later, they found out that there's some things that can float on it, and they started to build rafts. Some people never came back from the ocean because their rafts floated not well enough. There were waves. They drowned. They died. A lot of people were afraid of that might they couldn't control. Others were more from an operational nature. They did build stronger rafts. Rafts became boats. We learned how to control, to a certain degree, how we move on the ocean. There is powers and might all around us that we can't control, but we can learn how to live with it to our benefits. These kind of people that help us to overwhelm the fear with curiosity and the will to find ways to make it a better place for everybody here should be encouraged. It's also important to have a certain fear to prevent for too much experimental stuff. But I will all encourage you to understand that we need both. And then he goes back and holds his hand like to be prepared to get handcuffed again.
Yeah, and they do, and they guide you to sit down, but there's a small murmur that says that there was recognition throughout the crowd, at least, that heard you. And finally called up for the defense is Boreal. And Boreal comes up and he sits down. He's unshackled. He comes up and he sits down. He plumes his feathers a little bit, like he just pulls at them and kind of fixes them because they've just been uncomfortable for hours. First starting, of course, is the defense. So we have Eldrick. He steps up. Can you describe your state of mind and intentions during the incident involved with the spell? And Boreal's like, I had no control. It was like watching your worst nightmare, but living it. I could see what was happening, but it was like screaming into the void. There was nothing that I could do to stop it. I would hope that the school could bring me the understanding of how to control my abilities in future to prevent something like this from happening again. Without the school, I think I would be lost. They then ask, how has your school supported you in your magical education and personal growth? And he's like, phenomenally. I've been here for a few weeks, and I would say that in that short time, my ability to harness my spells has come quite far. Learning how to use my trusty book and rehearse and practice, and the discipline that not only the school has taught me, but the Toshitsugu family has also taught me. And my final question is, what do you believe caused the incident, and how do you think it could have been prevented? What caused it is unknown, but what could prevent it, and he looks towards Hatsu rather than everyone else, is further training, study, discipline. Through understanding of what has happened, I can learn and grow from this. An incident like this in a safe environment, don't mistake it. I am sorry for those I have hurt. I will carry that with me for the rest of my life. And if this had have been fatal, I don't know how I would have been able to process it. But through my family, I have been learned a lot of self-discipline. And through this school, I would love to learn a lot of magical discipline to make sure that these kinds of things not only don't happen to me, but don't happen to others. And they're like, thank you, no further questions. Thaddeus stands up and he comes across. Do you acknowledge the severity of the injuries caused by your actions? Lost Max into it. Boreal says yes. I have spent... I found it so difficult to deal with this situation that I had to magically be put under. And I'm grateful for that, because I don't think I could have slept. Not until I knew that everybody was okay. Especially my brother and his friends. He hesitates for a moment. And then he's like, everybody seems to believe that you had no control in this situation, but it sounds to me like you were aware of what was going on. Surely you must have been aware of the harm that such a spell could cause, given the situation and who was around. It seems almost like this was targeted very intentionally at a large crowd of people. And Boreal just thinks for a moment, and he's like, well, I have put a lot of work into my magic and my spells, and although I've come quite far, I'm nowhere near capable of casting a spell like that. Unfortunately, I think that whatever happened here is just part of what happened here. It's something that we all need to uncover, and perhaps exploring this would lead to future incidents like this being prevented, as you said, in a location like Palperoth or something, which is ultimately our goal. We want to help people just like you do. Just we want to use our natural gifts to do that. Quite often Boreal is looking towards Hatsu, almost as if like, did I do good? But like not as like overly active as that. All right, well, can you explain why you acted the way you did? And can you guarantee... Sorry. It's been a long day, sorry. Can you guarantee that something like this won't happen again? They call for objection, self-incrimination again. He just looks towards the group and he says, there are no guarantees in life. I learned that the hard way. But I can guarantee you that I will do my best to make sure that my friends and my family are safe. Hatsu did what he did to defend me. But those people that you questioned today did what they also could to defend me and everybody else. It would have been easy to cleanly take my head off and end this mess. But given that you did not do this, and that you tried as hard as you could to keep me safe and everyone else, goes to show that everybody here has discipline, responsibility, and consideration for others. Whereas I feel like your crisis response unit would have simply just taken my head off. A messy end to something that had multiple solutions. He gets really fucking tousled by this and he's like, no further questions. And he just walks away and he sits down in the chair.
That just gives a slightly like applause and then stops.
There's like an echo and nobody else claps.
Yeah.
So Boreal moves back. Very much so channeling kind of his inner Toshitsugu. Like that is kind of his deal. Now the defense gets, the prosecution gets to call a witness or witnesses, but he simply stands up and he says, I have but one. I would like to call upon Remington Maleficum to the stand to determine finally whether or not what has been said here today is warranted, valid, or just the speaking of out-of-place children who don't know any better and are perhaps a little too scared to go back home. And he sits down in his chair and they just shout objection, but it doesn't matter. He's already said what he says and he throws it away. He says, fine. But it's already out there. Remington steps down from his council chair and he sits down in the chair himself. Looks snug as a bug in a rug. He's totally calm, cool, collect. Looks tired, but it's been a draining couple of days for both him and me. So we both yawn at the same time. The defense stands up and they go up first, maintaining the order that they've already been doing. As the principal of Maleficum's Arcanum, can you explain the school's safety protocols and how they are enforced? Oh, well, yes. Well, everything is based on experience. We learn as we go. But we do not make the same mistake twice. Every day is a school day. We will learn from every possible situation. That's our job here. Not everything can be cut and dry. You cannot account for every situation. If you could, there would be very little murder in this world. There would be very little crime. But you cannot predict the intentions of others, be they intentional or out of their control. But I do not think that the actions here are worth sending two young men to jail. I do not think that the actions here are worth closing down an institution, one of the oldest in these lands, a respected one. I am not denying that I am overwhelmed by what happened, but I am also thankful that I am not the only person responsible for learning from this, growing from this, and cleaning up. I can assure you that every student that remains here and every member of faculty and ourselves and myself, will be growing and learning from this, and we will be looking out for signs of similar things now that we know what to expect. If we have an inkling of a blood moon, for example, we will confine the students to their dorms, or even to further separation. But this is something that I would take up with the students and the faculty, and we would learn and grow together and choose the correct path and how to proceed from here. A decision that should be, as always, in the hands of those who attend this school every day. He sits back and they just look at him, and like they're like looking through the list of questions, and he kind of just answered all of them. Like he kind of just rattled it off. What actions were taken in response to the incidents involving Boreal and Hatsu? And Remington thinks for a moment. He's like, well, Nightingale got the healing potions. A lot of the students and faculty that started dragging students out of harm's way. And I myself stepped into the front line to fray with the active students that you just questioned and interrogated in an effort to help and assist them and diffuse the situation as best I could, based on the information that I had available to me. I think that everything that happened the way that it did in response to a crisis situation, and I am honored to say that I'm proud of these students for the way that they handled it. Do I think that there's room to grow and learn? Yes, but they are first years, and they did better than some of our fifth years who were busy dragging away and helping others, which is admirable, but you have to appreciate that somebody who has been here for 2 weeks having the courage, let alone many somebodies, to having the courage to walk in the way they did. How can I do better than that? And he's just like, no further questions. He sits down. Thaddeus gets up and he's like, as you said, a lot of incidents have occurred in the school over the years, whilst not many have happened under your tutelage. What have you learned, or what will you implement in the safety protocols of this school following these incidents to make sure that this might not happen again, but will not happen again? Remington looks and he said, as I rightly pointed out already, we will discuss it. We will grow and we will learn. It would be reckless of me to give you a plan now when it is so soon after the incident and I've been preparing for these hearings. I take this very seriously, and I will speak to the students both individually, my door is always open, and as a group, over the next coming days, weeks, and months to slowly upgrade and implement changes to this school that perhaps we should have done 1,000 years ago, but were never faced with a responsible reason to do so. But now we are, and we will grow and change the school accordingly, and then 1,000 years from now, when the school is still standing, we will still be looking at the same changes and growth and exciting new community members who join us. Our doors will always be open to them, depending on how things go today. He just looks down and he kind of flicks through his notes.
which are unreadable.
With a nat 20, they're a little bit readable. Ryan, actually, just for the notes there, I got a nat 20 on a check.
Sorry, what was the check?
I was just doing an investigation check, but I can't tell you the total. But he got a he got a 90.
That's fine.
All that I see here is that in the last week, 2 assassins entered this school with the intention of killing one student and almost killing the other for unknown reasons. And in response to that, they decapitated those 2 assassins. No information, no questions. They just killed 2 people on this premises. And following that, those same 2 students, not a week later, were involved with nearly targeting and taking out members of staff, faculty, and students who you promised to defend in this school. Given all of that information, what gives you the right and confidence to sit here and tell me that this school is safe and that these people are safe? As long as those 2 remain here, and as long as this school remains under your leadership. Well, perhaps you're right. There may be a change in leadership required here. I'm not sure, but I know that I would trust my life with these 2 students with the way that they acted. One was against his will, and I was able to prevent some of the damage by being there and by being present. And the other student was trying to defend his family and his friends and try and understand a situation that is so unfathomably out of control that I don't know who could possibly do better. I would be arguing that in the same situation you would struggle. Sure, but I'm not the one who goes to this school, gets trained by these teachers and this faculty to support these students and would-be killers that you are harboring here. There's just objections flying left and right at this point. Well, you say would-be killers, but I think that if there was a raised threat attacking us today, here and now, I don't know that I would have a more safe place in all the Isles than I would in this room right here. I trust those that are here, and I trust that with experience and time and education, that things will get better. Either under my control and leadership, or someone else's. My ultimate goal here is to see the students succeed. I don't think closing the doors would lead to anything healthier than just simply putting a problem elsewhere that could be resolved here, rather than letting it grow wild like fire in the trees. Yeah, no further questions. He goes and he sits down for a moment, and they call for a recess for a few minutes to get some air while the council prepares for deliberation post the final closing statements. You guys are free to talk at this point in the hallway.
Well done you for repeating all that, Ken. God,
That is my brain is just going to be fried. I'm going to be sleeping like, objection!
Conjecture! How dare you?
How dare you? Hey, you guys feel free to
Is going to go to the bathroom.
Good choice. Cat is about to go to the bathroom. Yeah, what do you guys want to do?
Dash is staying in the room, staying in the seat, just kind of deliberately not, I wouldn't say staring at Thaddeus, but kind of keeping his face turned in that general direction. If that makes sense.
Sure. You're just keeping an eye on him. He's mostly trying to pull documents apart still. He's still reeling from the soup incident from hours ago. He is just pretty unhappy. And I will say that soup incident did have an impact, as he couldn't find some relevant information for what would have been a very jarring question in that moment. Because he couldn't find the person's name, he was unable to pull up that information. So, well done. Slate, on that. You did disrupt his court case in some capacity. How morally right that is, I don't know, but well done.
Morals in D&D?
Oh yeah, right. Sorry. Yeah, chaotic evil. Got it.
Yes.
How does Hatsu and Boreal look now after all of this?
Boreal is breathing easier, but Hatsu, I would let Busy answer that rather than myself.
He's the same as before. He's calm. He's confident. He kind of felt that he made his point. Yeah.
Despite
As
her
usual.
objections,
Poker face.
Yeah. Despite her objections about how he handled stuff, she still has respect for Hatsu in his, what's the word? Not determination, his grit, I suppose you'd call it, to stick by what he believes. He's not wavered, he's not faltered. He stayed true to his line.
What about the rest of you?
I'm just kind of looking quite smug.
I'd like to write a small note. Go out, the back away, whatever. Same thing as before. And what I want to do is, when you pass a note in class where each person taps the person on the shoulder and says, pass that forward, pass that forward, pass that forward, pass that forward, so a note goes all the way to the front. And I just want to send a note, and on it, on the outside, it's purposely misspelt as Mr. Grimstone, and then on the inside, I just wanted to say, AKA Soupy Shoes, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Oh shit. I'll
That's the
say
declaration of war.
one further than that. I'll say that he stepped out to use the restroom, and during that time, they threw the note into the briefcase so that he will find it at a later time.
Excellent.
That's gonna be put on Slate's fucking tombstone.
His Grimstone.
Oh yeah.
She just went to splash some water in her face. She's checking her hair, checking her brows, checking her teeth. Make sure she looks perfectly presentable in case she's asked for any more wonderful questions.
Perfect.
I'll assist by turning into you in front of you and mimicking everything you're doing to show you your teeth are clean, etc.
Legend.
Yeah, the room starts to come back for what would be the closing statements of like Eldrick and Seraphina and Thaddeus. Seraphina has mostly been taking notes and giving information during this. She has been predominantly not in the back seat, but a support on this case. But as the room comes in and it quietens down again and the chatter kind of dies down, first up, the closing statement for the defense for Seraphina and Eldrick. Eldrick steps up and he's just... Honorable members of the council, and those of you who work here, or live here, or train here. Throughout this hearing, we have endeavored to demonstrate the indispensable role that this arcanum plays in our society. This institution is not just a school, but it is a sanctuary of learning, growth, and responsible use of magic. But not only that, training those to wield their weapons, be they arcane or physical, in a way that helps better society. The incidents presented today, while serious, must be viewed with the broader context of the Academy's long-standing contributions to magical and non-magical communities alike. The Arcanum has consistently produced graduates who go on to positive impact on society and the using of their skills for the betterment of all. The Academy has rigorous safety measures and ethical training programs to ensure that students understand the gravity of their powers and the responsibilities that come with them. These measures are constantly reviewed and improved upon to adapt to emerging challenges, and I have no reason to believe, based on what we've heard today, that this situation will be any different. The unfortunate events involving Boreal and Hatsu were extraordinary situations. They tested the Academy's safeguards. However, these incidents do not reflect a systemic failure, but rather an unpredictable nature of the world we live in, where external threats often seek to disrupt peace and learning. The presence of assassins targeting students highlights the dangers that magic users face from hostile forces, but these same threats exist in their homes. The Academy acted swiftly and decisively to neutralize these threats, with Hatsu doing so with support, and doing so protected potential other students that could have been impacted. This shouldn't be viewed as a crime, this should be viewed as heroics. Closing the Academy would not eliminate the risks associated with magic, it would exacerbate them. Without a structured and supervised environment provided by the Arcanum, young magic users would lack the guidance and needed to control their abilities, leading to greater chaos and dangers in society. And doing so would result in places like Scorchwood becoming the only possible place for magic users to go. That sounds more like a crime, a war crime, than it does a solution to anything that's being offered here today. By nurturing responsible magic use, the Academy acts as a crucial buffer against the misuse of magical powers, and it is far safer for students to learn and make mistakes within a controlled environment of the Academy than the wider world, where the consequences would be far more dire and immediate. Honorable Council members, we urge that you see beyond the isolated incidents recognized by the Academy's invaluable role in shaping responsibility and ethical magic users. The risks of not providing a structural environment for magic users and magical education far outweigh the challenges that we face. For the safety of our society and the future of magic and non-magical relations, we ask that you allow the Arcanum to continue its essential work and let us not forsake the progress that we have made and the potential for a safer, more harmonious world. We trust in your wisdom to make the right decision for the benefit of all. And he just takes his seat. There's a murmur around the room that suggests that not everybody is agreeing with the statements that are made, but people are swayed by it. Ultimately speaking, and as you'll see in the next statement, of course, people were still hurt physically, badly. Like, there were some close calls. Some of you had close calls. This was a Eos with the thumbs up. This was a dangerous situation that got extremely out of hand very quickly, and although the statements made on both sides were both arguably compelling for you know, the twos and the fours of both sides, people were still hurt in a way that they hadn't faced in this school. Thaddeus stands up and he straightens his new suit out that he got changed during the longer recess. Esteemed members of this council, today we have heard the testimonies and examined evidence that paint a troubling picture of Malefican's Arcanum of Magic and Might. This institution, under the guise of education, harbors individuals who pose a significant threat to society. We must not forget the gravity of the incidents that we have discussed. Assassins infiltrated the school's ground, endangered the lives of students and staff alike, and more disturbingly, we witnessed how students supposedly under the Academy's careful guidance unleashed a dangerous magic upon their peers. The incident involving Boreal and Hatsu is particularly alarming. These students, who are meant to be under strict supervision and ethical training, nearly caused fatal harm to others. And this is not a matter of mere misjudgment. This is a clear demonstration of lethal potential that these individuals possess. The defense argues that the Academy teaches control and responsibility, but what we have seen here are repeated failures to contain these dangers one after another. If these incidents can occur within supposed safe confines of the Academy, then what happens when these individuals are let loose into the broader world? The continued operation of this Academy places our society at perpetual risk. We cannot afford to give magic users a free pass every time they attempt murder or cause destruction. Each time we excuse such behavior, we endanger innocent lives and undermine the rule of the laws of these isles. The message we send today will resonate far beyond these walls. It will either reinforce our commitment to the safety and justice or show a dangerous leniency towards those who wield magic irresponsibly. It is imperative that we hold the Arcanum accountable for the dangers it perpetuates, and the Council must prioritize the safety of all citizens over the interest of a select few who wield dangerous power. We urge you to recognize that the clear and present danger posed by this institution and take decisive action to prevent further harm. The Academy's inability to control its students and safeguard against threats is proof enough that it cannot be trusted with such a grave responsibility. For the safety of our society and the future of our communities, I implore the Council to rule against Maleficums staying open, and that these 2 students be taken into Scorchwood for corrective punishment. We must not allow a haven for uncontrolled and dangerous magic to continue operating under a false pretense of education and safety. Let us act now to protect our people from what is a very real and persistent threat that emanates from this very institution. Thank you. He walks and he sits down. And again, there are murmurs of people who disagree, but also murmurs of those who agree. They take their final recess for what would be the overall decision of the council, I suppose. Well, prior to the recess, if you wouldn't mind, those of you who have sat quietly and listened, and some of you who have, of course, been questioned, perhaps have not had everything you wish to say put out there. Are there any final points in favor or against the freedom of Hatsu and Boreal and the continuation of this Arcanum and institution? Yes, Mr. Heidman.
If I could, and Dash just kind of stand. He'll take a button up his suit jacket, and stand with just kind of one hand behind his back and hold his lapel. Esteemed Council of the Venerable Maleficum's Arcanum, as we stand within the hallowed echelons of this ancient bastion at the precipice of a decision of monumental import, we are summoned to deliberate with the solemnity this moment commands. The choice before us is not merely about the survival of these revered halls, but the very continuum of our mystical heritage. To shutter the gates of our illustrious academy would be to unleash a maelstrom of untamed magic upon the world, a scenario fraught with perils as dire as the darkest of ancient prophecies. Imagine, if you will, a world bereft of this sacred institution's guiding light, where young sorcerers endowed with raw, unrefined power meander the shadowed paths without the beacon of wisdom that Maleficum's Arcanum has nobly provided for generations. Deprived of the learned guidance crafted through the centuries within these walls, these fledgling mages might seek hidden enclaves to refine their craft far removed from the watchful eyes of seasoned mentors. In such obscured retreats, beyond the structured nurturing of their formidable abilities, lies the perilous risk of their talents spiraling into chaos. The void left by our absence would swiftly be filled by the obscure and perilous realms of the underground, a crucible of unchecked ambition and unbridled magical experimentation. Here, in the penumbral underbelly of society, devoid of ethical moorings and the noble doctrines that we uphold, magic could mutate into a tool of malevolence and destruction, transforming its wielders into agents of discord and calamity. By reaffirming our commitment to the sanctum of Maleficum's Arcanum and championing a revitalized dedication to transparency and preemptive security measures, we assert our role as the steadfast guardians of the vanguard of magical discipline and education. We must embrace our duty not only as educators, but as custodians of cosmic balance, to guide the immense powers entrusted to our care towards the greater good, thus averting the dire consequences of a world awash in rogue magic. Let us, therefore, advance boldly into the future with the wisdom of our forebears and the unyielding spirit of our sacred charge. It is incumbent upon us to not only preserve this hallowed institution, but to enhance it as a citadel of enlightenment and a bulwark against the encroaching shadows. By committing to a framework of enhanced security, unwavering transparency, we safeguard not only the future of our kind, but also the intricate tapestry of existence itself. Thank you.
Yes. Well said. It was I don't know if anyone can follow that, but if anyone would like to, there's a platform for you, of course.
I'd like to make a point.
Yes.
Without magic, we wouldn't have stories. Children's bedtime stories, tales to inspire those like me who grew up hidden away from the views of people like Mr. Grimstone. I wouldn't have been inspired to take the leap of faith that I did and to be found by those who invited me here. I have met people from different parts of the world that I would have never known to really exist. In my time before I came here, I was tasked with translating books and stories and bedtime stories and tales of great wondrous people who may not have existed. But they helped shape me into who I am. And who I am as someone who's proud to wield the things that flow inside me. From the burning soul of my heart to the shining stars inside of my mind. I can brew tea. I can heat up food. I can safely navigate by using the stars at night on my horse. All because of the magic that is inside of me. And if you tear apart people like me and destroy who we are in this horrendous gulag place named Scorchwood, or whatever it is, then you are no better than the volcano that destroys the village. Thank you.
Well said. Yes, Mr. Hatsu.
Well, I would like to close up as following. No matter how you decide or what your opinion is, you should keep in mind we should appreciate explorers the same way we appreciate the people that stay home and build a dike to prevent harm from high waves that might occur in a storm. But with all this in mind, you should remember we were made as different folks and different tribes to get to know each other, not to fear each other, not to think that you're higher up than somebody else or further down than somebody else. We are all the way we meant to be. And this is the beauty of it all. And he kind of bows for a last time, and he sits down.
Well said, Mr. Hatsu. Thank you very much for your contributions. Is there anyone else who wishes to say anything before we... Yes, Mr. Slate.
I think I made my point earlier. Shakes his notes, shuffles them around. To summarize... To summarize what we've heard before in a way that we can all understand. School good, school closed, bad. I rest my case. Sits down.
Eloquently put, Slate. Thank you very much. Any final closing remarks from the audience, the group?
Magiana stands up.
Hell yeah. I'm ready. Go ahead.
Maleficum's rule!
Pulls up her like leather armor. There's a Maleficum's like shirt, like a thing. Many of the people in the crowd put their hand up and celebrate, and he's like, right, well...
That's for the barbarians, so they've got something to say.
They're like watching football. He's like, yes, well, that sounds like a good note to end this section on and give our council some time to hear, to take it all in. With that in mind, my fellows, you all have done quite excellent, so I will give you advantage on the next roll. I wish you all to make it. This is the final persuasion check of this section, please.
Wait. Let me think for a second what I can say to get another inspiration.
Heart of the cards, boys. Heart of the cards.
I can't.
Did you say all at advantage, yeah?
All with advantage, yeah, please. And remember to say that for our podcast listeners. Thank you.
15 for dash.
18
come
for
on.
efficacy.
I have all the shit rolls today. 11.
13 for Slate. He's getting tired and his form is dropping and he's starting to look sickly.
Oh
my
thank God. And that's
Oh,
way.
It's Fiona with the nat 20.
Malefica's rule.
Maleficus rule!
Yeah, like literally all he said was Malefica rule. Everyone else made these like grand speeches except for Slate. Like it was a little bit shorter, but like Adriana says 2 words against the nat 20.
And Adrian's just hyping everyone up, so they're like, yeah, fuck it, yeah.
Malefica! Everybody
Kill the
just,
humans. Kill the humans.
everyone's just like chest bumping out the whole way. 50-50 on me going, well, you'll find out next week because we're way over time, but you guys pushed hard for this, so I think we can get our verdict in today.
Come on, Ken wrote a speech.
We'll do a slightly condensed post show if that's okay, in favor of continuing this for just the moment. Because I know Richard's on like 7 minutes sleep probably for the last 2 months.
1 minute a week.
The
That minute is just before we go live.
The council go in, and Remington doesn't. He is not getting a deciding vote in this, so there's just the 6 members in there. The lawyers stay out here. Everybody stays in the room. Nobody wants to leave. You can, but nobody wants to because they want to be here when the announcement's made. There are people who are emotionally quite sad because the idea of going home and leaving this place for any amount of time for those who have been here is obviously quite tense. But there's a few of you who have an additional concern. You have 2 friends here who may go to jail, may never be seen again, might just be taken out of here altogether. It's hard to see a world where everybody wins at everything they do. And to try and succeed with keeping the school open, perhaps. To prevent Hatsu, who technically has just been accused of murder in the middle of this trial, seems less likely, and then Boreal, who almost took down half the school in one blast, it becomes even more unlikely and tense for all of you. Although you can't see them, this is for the players and for the viewers. The council are debating whether or not the school deserves to stay open based on what happened. Whether or not it should stay open. Is it morally right to stay open when everything that happened has led to a lot of very serious injuries that in a few mere moments could have resulted in death, the loss of lives. They debate whether or not Hatsu should be considered a murderer for this, because it's not attempted murder and it's not murder in itself. It was self-defense. And in doing so, and just as a reminder to viewers and stuff who may have forgotten over the last few sessions, Hatsu took responsibility for the actions that happened in the hallway. So even though it was Madriana and Dash that were responsible as well, Hatsu took the heat for that, quite literally. With that in mind,
don't forget that.
in his little book, you all owe me. Oh, that was Slate. Sorry. In Slate's book,
We
you all
didn't
owe
ask
Hatsu.
for it. That's on you.
With that in mind, there's a long debate whether or not Hatsu is right in his self-defense, or given his innate abilities that he already had coming to the school, could he have resolved this amicably without the need for bloodshed? Could he have captured them? And what price is paid by his, let's call it, swift action in both cases? He swiftly struck at Westland the way he swiftly struck at those assassins, with very little indifference between the two. The question that raises and changes this for them is Hatsu's response when he was asked if he shows remorse for the situation and would he behave the same if the situation was to repeat itself. Whilst the remorse wasn't, oh my god, what have I done? The understanding and responsibility was clear. You were not shying away from what happened, but you were taking it in your stride, and you're willing to take the hit for it because, first of all, you defended your brother, and second of all, you defended the people in your dorms and yourself. The question on whether or not Boreal should be blamed is raised. Whether or not he deserves Scorchwood. And the conversation goes back and forth like the tide. Sometimes the responsibility is lifted by his unknowing of what he did, and perhaps keeping him here would result in an understanding and a betterment of this school, because they may be able to find out what's causing this and prevent it from happening to others. And they can't do that if they don't have the people who were involved in this situation here under watchful eyes and helpful hands. The ultimate decision is that if the school stays open, does it do more harm than good to the realm? Ultimately, what Thaddeus wants and what the crew want, the crisis response unit, what the crew want, is that if you close this school, magic users are let out on the street, rounded up, put in Scorchwood, and the threat is removed. But that weight and burden is also on the teachers and faculty and people who have taken it upon themselves to dedicate their lives to this building, because that goes against everything that this place was founded for. This is a safe haven, and it's the responsibility of a safe haven to keep its people safe as long as it can. But given that, can Maleficums continue to keep its faculty and its students safe, given the environment and the current situation that has been raised? They deliberate and they debate for quite some time. Minutes turn into hours. People start to drift in and out. They need to get food, they need to rest.
Can we start like a very slow and soft to start with, you know, like the foot thing on it, where you like just building up that,
Yeah.
Get everyone in.
Yeah, you can make a performance check if you like.
We're united.
Yeah. Man unit, no. If you roll for...
No, Rover, just no.
No.
That's key.
Apparently no to that as well. I'm off beat.
6, so it's a no. Yeah. I threw you off with my Man United comment.
Yeah, you did.
Appropriate response.
Yeah. The council comes out and they speak to Maleficum, and everybody is pin drop quiet. He is handed a document, sort of an envelope, and on it contains the information of what is about to happen. And that's where we'll pick up next week. No, I'm just kidding. With that in mind, Remington takes a moment and hesitates, and he looks up towards the group as a whole that have assembled in this room. All right, well, your council has reached a verdict. All decisions that have been made here are based fairly and equally on all the points that have been made by everybody involved in today's hearings. And we thank you all for your dedication and for sticking to this. It has been a long day, and you all have earned some rest. Starting with Hatsu. It is believed by the council that your actions on the first evening do not constitute as murder. We believe that you defended yourself and your allies with everything that you had. And so there will be no grounds for Scorchwood in terms of this evening. However, you did brandish a weapon against a student of this school, and this was not necessarily in an act of self-defense. For this, they have deemed that there should be a punishment. But I would be remiss if I was not to say that I would agree, that I have agreed with the council. I do. It is decided that at this point, you may remain at Maleficum's, but you will be brought in for a very specialized counseling to ensure that your mental state is adequate for this situation and for this school. And if it is determined that you are posing more of a threat to this school in any capacity rather than a help or a support, you will be put over not to the mercy of just the school, but to the crisis response unit and those involved. As this is the agreement that we have. When a threat is raised, we must take care of this. With that in mind, you will remain here should you wish to do so. But this counseling is mandatory, and if you miss a session, this transgression will not fly. This is absolutely mandatory without exception. You must attend these hearings. Boreal, your case is a little bit more difficult to argue. You were a victim of the first night's transgressions, and we do not hold you accountable for whatever occurred then. But we do have an issue with you attacking dozens of students, with or without prior knowledge to what your actions may be or may lead to. We have taken everything that was said here on board. But the ultimate issue that we have is that we cannot 100% guarantee the safety of our students should you continue to be here. Weighing this with potential understanding and knowledge that could be gained from researching you, we have to decide if it's worth such a risk to keep you here. The decision of the council is that you may remain in the school, but you will no longer be a student. You will be removed and placed in holding cell, where we may research and work with you. And if we've deemed that you are in such a state that you may not pose a threat to the school anymore, then perhaps at that time you may re-enroll to our school. You may choose to decline this, but please be informed that doing so will land you in Scorchwood immediately. We have no further option here. This is the best that we could do based on the situation. So you will be put in a cell. You are allowed visitors. You are allowed to be a part of this, and there will be certain liberties to be free at certain times under strict guidance. But we cannot rightfully let you be a student of this school any longer until we know what has caused this and that you do not pose a threat any further. As of this moment, you are technically hereby expelled from Maleficum's, and any items that were given to you in terms of your book and information will be taken away from you. Your license is hereby revoked, and we cannot continue to teach you until this has been rectified. That will not be during this school cycle. You are a civilian here, and as I said, you have the right to leave, but choosing to do so will only end up with your family in trouble and them having to bring you forward and lock you away in Scorchwood for the rest of your days. As for Maleficum and the Arcanum, I will hereby stay instated as the leader of the school with the most experience. Finding someone to replace me would be a difficulty, but if these issues continue, I will be relieved of my place here in this school and no longer welcome. The Arcanum will be allowed to stay open on the grounds that the students feel safe and comfortable here. With that in mind, I will take it and defer to the students over the coming days. And if a majority say that it's okay and that they wish to stay, we will continue to teach you, and those who do not wish to stay are free to leave, and we will have ships at the ready. If we do not have majority vote on this, we will be closing the school at least for the rest of this year. And we will reopen next year, where you can continue where you left off. You will always be welcome. And in the meantime, we will try and install a security system that makes you all feel safe. Although I wish to remind you myself that I would like to work with all of you, and those who feel ready, please come to me. If you have suggestions, if you have information, if you have anything you can provide to make this a safer school for everybody, please do not keep it to yourself. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your attention. Boreal's security will be with you shortly to move you to your cell. Hatsu, you may go with him if you wish. I would encourage you to come and see me when things have quietened down a little bit. As for the rest of you, thank you. Lessons are cancelled for the rest of this week. Use this time to think about how you truly feel about the Arcanum, and we will have discussions in the coming days. Take care, everybody. He looks defeated as fuck. The lawyer picks up his suitcase and he leaves. And the other two lawyers are kind of happy with what happened, but they want to go talk to Boreal, so they're trying to engage with that.
Did you say Grimstone left first?
Yeah, he's just getting the fuck out of here.
Okay.
Could I walk out with him? I do want to try catch him for a word if possible.
Sure.
Sorry, Ryan, I kind of talked over there.
That's right.
Major, are you doing the same thing?
I'm not letting him know I'm there though.
Okay.
I want to know everything he says out loud, all of that, but without him knowing I'm there.
He's heading to Maleficum's office, so he's just heading down. The corridor has people in it, so he's not really talking.
Oh, he's going to the office.
He's going to the office, yeah.
To Remington's office.
Yeah. Dash, you catch him before he goes in. Given the time here, I still want us to have a post session for like a few minutes, so I might call this for next week, that we pick this up next week, if that's okay with everybody. Just because we went way over time, and I do want to have a post session for even just 10 minutes just to wind down and let people ask questions and chat and stuff like that based on this. Because this was a mouthful. This was a long session.
Yeah, especially for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm tired of shit.
20-year-olds.
With 3 mirrors in front of him, like.
Absolutely. I'll have a conversation with the guys off camera about if they want to continue for this part or if they want to go get some sleep and stuff. But some of us, or maybe all of us, will be back in 5 minutes. I won't do a boss fight because it's just 5 minutes. We're just going to be nice and quick here. So pop on some music, grab a cup of tea, and if you have any questions in chat, as always, !question in chat will allow you to ask some questions, and we will do our best to answer it, and we will see what we can do.